Go, we go.
Oh shit, we out there.
Oh shit, you got the thing going?
Oh, maybe. I want to let you know. Sometimes it's gotta be secret start.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I started playing Wind Waker again.
Oh yeah?
It's I never fully played through the remake,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty good. It looks nice.
That's true.
Yeah, a lot of bloom, but it still looks like
Still
it still
looks
looks really really nice.
A lot. I played it actually in October, I want to say, because I was like pretty sure that Twilight Princess HD, back when they actually announced it, like it seemed like it was a sure bet.
Yeah.
And I was like positive that it was going to be something that was going to be out like now. Like I think they were going to say it, but I didn't really expect a March release date. I just kind of thought there'd be something like out now after the Directs, whatever. And then, that obviously didn't happen, but I was kind of hyped. I was like, I want to play a Zelda game. Ended up playing Skyward Sword again afterwards. You still haven't played Skyward Sword, right?
No.
Nah.
I need to.
You should.
I had the itch to play it the other day, but then I played Wind Waker.
True. Wind Waker's great. It's a great game. I really like Skyward Sword too. But
I'm stuck between playing it on my HD TV or if I should just play it on Dolphin. You know?
I mean, at this point, you could straight up plug it in on Dolphin, put it on your TV, and you wouldn't be a difference. I mean,
well, it'll look sharp, you know.
No, but I mean, it'd still be on your TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. That difference, you know, like the fuzziness.
That's
of
what I'm saying. Put it on Dolphin, toss it up on your TV. Good.
Oh, you mean the
dog.
experience in general? Yeah.
This way, you still get it on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
It was a weird thing because like my memory of the game is that like, and honestly, it still didn't look like that bad. I mean, it's obviously a Wii game, but playing
Skyward, you were talking about again?
Skyward Sword, yeah. I was playing it on the Wii U, and when I first got it, actually it came out, and I'm pretty sure I played it on the Wii U too. I really don't remember. I guess it must have been the Wii. It was like the last game that I played on the Wii. It's whatever. It's recent enough, and I don't remember too well. But when I had done that, I was like playing it on the Wii U. It didn't look as great as I remember it looking. Like it looked a little bit more muddy than I thought, and like it was playable, obviously, but like in my recollection, it was just like it was a somewhat sharper game, but I played it.
Yeah.
Didn't stop me from doing it.
Either way, I'm excited for the new Zelda.
Definitely,
I have to beat Skyward Sword before I play it.
You should, and we should put it up on the internet, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
An idea, one of them idea things. We'll see what happens. Maybe. Which, speaking of when we're talking about the internet, as much as I ambushed you with this whole thing to start it, and I do want to keep talking about Zelda because we have a new Zelda release imminent, I should probably say who we are. Maybe drop the name of this thing.
Oh, that's true.
Right? Might be nice.
I'm FUNKNOWN.
Mm-hmm.
And that's FUNKNOWN, Julian.
True.
And that's it.
I am Asadasa or Steve.
We refer to each other as either or sometimes. I'll call you Asadasa or Steve.
Yeah, it gets real
interchangeable,
confusing, sometimes. But you know who we are. It's a little helpful. Kind of get it in there, and you can start attaching our names to voices. Start pairing. It's always good.
Yeah. And you'll hear other people on other podcasts and whatnot on our channel. So. And
occasionally maybe you'll get some other people on this too. Like we kind of like feeling it out, see what happens with this. Like it's no real 100% set up with this, but all things considered, it's just really like this is gonna be our iXi Club podcast. General
fast and loose, loosey goosey.
Going for it.
Just topics. Get it out there.
Just doing what we got to do, talking about some games, talking about what we got going on in our lives. Maybe we'll take it to some other broader topics on occasion too. As with that, all the things, tangents always welcome. But primarily this is going to be like general podcast. So I think that's why we're just going to call it right now, tentatively titled at least, which we were saying might actually end up being the title, tentatively titled. But we're going with just kind of right now.
Someone has to have that.
I have to imagine. Right? I would not be surprised. Would not be shocked at all.
My friend has a podcast, a random untitled podcast.
Right. And I know the tested podcast, I think, is still just called Unnamed Podcast. Yeah, podcast project or whatever, because they still didn't, like, when they switched to doing their own podcast, they were going to come up with something. It was like, this is only a test of what it used to be, and then they're switching names. I don't know what they have now. It's been a while since I've actually listened to it, to be honest. But I think that we're going to go with just right now, Clubcast is what we're going with. If you're listening to this, then you probably have some sort of a sense of what it is because you must have clicked on something in order to hear it. And then you probably have some pictures of art, which might have our wonderful faces on it, or like the logo, or you might have Sonic saying that there's no such thing as ethical consumerism and capitalism.
I think I have right now on both the Twitch. Oh, no, I didn't change the Twitch yet. The Twitter and the YouTube banners are both collages of like different pictures of all of us.
Right, which is awesome.
Yeah, I added more to that actually.
Oh, cool.
Because it needed to cover a bigger space for YouTube's banner. YouTube's banner is huge. It has to be.
Fucking iTunes is ridiculous too with the 3,000 pixels.
3,000? Yeah. It's bigger than YouTube. It's like 2,500 or something by 1440.
What was it that I sent you? It was either 3,000 by 3,000 pixels or it was it 1,400 by 1,400?
I don't know.
I don't remember either. It's been I sent it to you a couple of days when we were trying to upload our other podcast that we might as well plug right away.
The Day After Dead podcast.
Walking Dead podcast, you know.
I can't wait for next week's episode.
Of course. We'll see what's up with that.
Yeah.
It's something where you can just get in there, you know, occasional probably plugs in there, but why not drop one off on the beginning? You know,
there's a playlist actually, podcasts under iXi Club, where you're watching this now for the YouTube.
That's true. So you can just go through them and see a Star Wars one, some other podcasts we've done, you know, and then eventually you'll just get a feed and you'll get them all. But, you know, that's the introduction right there, kind of trying to segue into it, you know, to start us off. But I want to kind of get back into the Zelda discussion just because, like, you know, it's an interesting thing to talk about. Like, are you picking up Twilight Princess? Are you going to play that? Or
probably not. At least not right away.
True.
I'll probably wait a bit, if anything, you know.
Did you beat Wind Waker, or did you just start playing it? Like, how far are you in it?
I just got to Dragon Roost Island, I think.
True.
So I'm fresh.
Right.
I'm literally fresh off the boat.
Nice.
Yeah. So now I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna try to power through it, and then try to, like we said before, maybe record some Skyward Sword.
Would be cool, I think.
First time playing it.
It'd be nice. Like, it'd be really interesting seeing how you feel about it too. And I honestly haven't seen it on Dolphin yet either. So on my end, there's like a little bit of an interest, just kind of seeing like what it looks like on it. I've tried to set Dolphin up
at some high settings,
maybe like 5 times, man. And I don't know, like it's either last time I tried it, right? I was like, let's do F-Zero. So I really want to play F-Zero, and GX is awesome.
It's true. You were about to say how sometimes it could be too much to set up or a little complicated.
Way too much.
Because different games have their own settings, which are you can have it optimize that for sure. Yeah, but I think they have. I might have a link if you I'll send it to you, but. It'll have like the best settings for each game.
I would love that because like I've tried it, and like what happened with the last time I tried with F-Zero, I must have messed around with it for like an hour, and at the end of it all, it was still running at like 1,000 frames per second. I'm like, well, this is impossible to play, so
F-Zero.
I can't do this.
I need another one.
Yep, very much so. But that's why I was like, I really want to play one, so Dolphin would be perfect because it might as well be a new one. It's been long enough since I played GX, and plus it'll look nicer, right?
I gotta say though that I'm glad that we didn't get F-Zero for the Wii U because that just builds up the hype for if there ever will be another one.
True.
It's gonna be on a Nintendo console that their culture seems to be more of like their how they're designing their console where they have the unified account system now. They're stepping into like today's age, Right. So an F-Zero on a new, we still don't know anything about the NX, which we could talk forever on. So I guess let's not even go into that rabbit hole. But it's just exciting to think about Nintendo in today's age creating a future F-Zero.
Right, definitely. And like even if it just has the most basic functionality we can expect out of the NX, with it being like a merger of portability and home console. Like I just imagine being able to play an F-Zero at home and just being like, all right, so I gotta go to work or whatever, or like do whatever, and I can just put it away and then take it with me at home. It's still the same experience. It would be perfect.
That's the music.
That's our intro song. I mean, we had some F-Zero-esque experiences on the Wii U where we had Fast Racing Neo.
I never played it.
It's good. It
looks good, though.
It did satisfy the F-Zero itch enough, but it has this mechanic that I remember we were talking about a couple months ago when it first came out, where you have to switch colors. So it's got like a orange and a blue system that you have to change, and if you're not the right color when you hit a boost, you don't get a boost. Like it actually ends up being against you, like you slow down. And same thing with certain angles. Like if you're not like orange when you're in this orange section, you slow down, and it's a little bit too much for me to have to deal with while I'm dealing with like this Twitch racer. You know what I mean? It would have been really cool. Like whatever. We'll see what happens with the NX, but a touchscreen would have been awesome.
Have they added anything to it since it launched?
They were going to do a patch, but I don't think the patch came out yet. It's been a minute since I've actually like launched it or like really kind of looked into it, to be honest. But I don't remember seeing like an update on my system, and I think I would have heard about it.
Yeah.
I don't remember hearing anything about it other than them saying they were going to do it. But like I have the 64DD and I have the F-Zero expansion pack, and you can create track editor.
Create your own levels. Yeah,
it would be really cool to be able to do that. Like I just want that. And the other game that we had that was similar to F-Zero would be Mario Kart 8. For all intents and purposes, might as well be. I mean, it had Big Blue and Mute City in it, DLC, and they were fantastic.
I love that stage.
They were amazing.
Yeah.
Mario Kart 8 was a great game.
It's a great game, yeah.
Really love it.
I love how they, it felt like they treated it as a platform.
Mm-hmm.
You know how they just kept adding to it. They had the couple, the packs that they had.
Mm-hmm.
It was a game that, because when they support it after launch like that,
Mm-hmm.
it's a game where you can feel good coming back to, that there's there's some new content waiting for you, you know?
Right.
So it's just, speaking of games as a platform though,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to bring up how do you feel on that in general, instead of just having, like Call of Duty does their yearly releases, games do that,
Right.
but then I feel like we're starting to see more games, especially some multiplayer games, that are just releasing one game.
Even Call of Duty is just like, did they announce that they're doing it, or did they actually do it yet, where they're only releasing their multiplayer for Black Ops 3? Like they're actually releasing just separately, just the multiplayer?
You're talking about that they only have.
Like I think they announced it like last week. As far as I know, it might even be out.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, like they're like, yo,
That's
we're just gonna
fresh news
put
for
out
me.
just the multiplayer. I'm just gonna put it out there.
Well, I mean, wasn't it on the 360 only the multiplayer? They didn't do the single player.
I'm not
for the
sure, but I know it
360.
was a stripped down version of the game, but I don't know if it was multiplayer or if it was the single player or what it was. But I think the one that they're putting out.
You think that's telling though for a future Call of Duty?
I think it makes sense, because if you're gonna think about what you're doing with sales wise, right? You have a $60 product, and you have all the story and stuff, and like zombie mode. But at the end of the day, like maybe not everyone's interested in all of that. So why not just put out $15 pack that just has a multiplayer? People get hooked up with that, and you'll still get money out of people. Because you have to think about it in the long run. Like people are probably waiting for a sale, and they're saying like, I'm not gonna spend $60 on this product right now. But they might be a little bit more willing to go and say, all right, so I'll spend $15 just for the sake of getting an actual multiplayer and being competitive and playing with my people or my clan or whatever it is that we got going on, or just my friends. And then it gives them the opportunity too to be like, I just want to stay competitive with it. I just want to be able to play with as many people as possible, so I'll spend the $15. When you look at something like Call of Duty, it's especially interesting because that's a game that people just go and they legitimately only play multiplayer for. So They're playing only the multiplayer, but they're still paying for the single player experience and all these other modes that they never even touch. So, why not offer it to them and try to get as many of them into the ecosystem as possible,
Yeah, it's a large enough franchise.
Right.
I totally support the idea of a large franchise that like a Call of Duty,
Mm-hmm.
or me personally, I would want Halo 5 for that to turn into a platform.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like we're finally at a place with Halo multiplayer where it's just the gameplay feels really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I feel a lot of people universally agree on.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anything about Halo 5, it's that the gameplay feels good.
Right.
So I feel like since we're finally at that place, that instead of releasing Halo 6 and just starting again,
Mm-hmm.
why don't they just have some kind of sustained plan around their multiplayer, and keep supporting that and building on top of that?
I agree with that. I think with Halo it gets a little bit more difficult because you have something like that actually has a single player and story.
But that's what I'm saying. Instead of just have Halo 5 multiplayer,
right?
And then every 3 years you get your campaign content,
right?
Or spin-offs or whatever. Like this year we're getting Halo Wars 2,
right?
Which I'm hyped for. So
of course, I remember that. I remember how excited you were when they first announced it.
I'm going crazy over Halo Wars 2. I'm so excited, and it's gonna be on PC too. So
right, which is actually something that we should get into at some point too. But I there's some talk a lot of what Microsoft's doing with their initiative with the UAP or whatever, the United Platform thing they have going on between Windows 10 and Xbox in general. But to keep talking a little bit more about a platform before we kind of segue into that, as much as I do want to talk about that at the moment. It's an interesting thing because I'm trying to think of what they did with Halo 3.
Mm-hmm.
And when what was it that came out afterwards? ODST that still had the Halo 3 multiplayer, right?
Right.
And you could still play with.
So they already kind of touched on that before with that,
right.
So it was just ODST was the spin-off, the fun thing they did,
right?
And then they gave you a content update for the multiplayer,
right? And I think that would be I didn't really mind so much when it did that. Was it the same They only did it for those 2 games, right? They didn't do it.
No, they did it for Reach too.
It was Reach, okay.
But it was for that they promoted when Halo 1 came out in 2011 when the 10-year anniversary for Halo 1. They had an anniversary map pack.
Right, I remember
for
that.
Reach. So it was the same thing with Halo 3.
Right.
So.
Because then they have some precedent then for doing it already, and it worked out well, I think.
And it seems too that since they're starting to get more into the competitive scenes, they're trying to build it, Microsoft. And 343, they're at I think $2 million or something for the Halo tournament.
Right.
But if they're trying to build that scene, it just makes sense to try to have your game stay consistent. If these players are trying to be competitive with it, the worst thing is to have a game and then have it changed frequently,
right.
And having the players have to adapt.
Constant patches, and it's like, I'm at this tournament now, and my gun, I was all aiming with this, and my sights are off.
It's completely different or something.
Crap.
And then that's why I feel like a game like Counter-Strike is so successful.
Right.
Well,
what are they even playing with Counter-Strike? Are they playing Go? Are they on Source still, or what are they doing with Go? They're doing Go?
Yeah.
Because I know that like even when they did like a couple of Source packs, when Source even came out, people were like, no, I'm staying with 1.6, and they like stuck around with that for like a minute. They were like, nah, it's what I want to stay with.
And especially because they didn't like the gameplay of Source.
Right.
They felt it made it too easy.
I think
that's another big part of this too, though, about the platform thing,
right.
Because the worst thing would be if a company wants to make a multiplayer game a platform that what if that base is just terrible though?
Right.
It's
true, and like you have to be able to do some patches on occasion, right?
Right, you have to change it.
Patches are important. Like if you're having a platform, it has to be like a living and breathing thing. All things considered.
Because sometimes you'll encounter a game-breaking bug or something, or an exploit that people abuse.
You gotta address that or like add things. And I mean, it's always nice to keep things fresh too, to a certain degree. Like to think about some other games that have platforms too. Like like I guess seeing like that with Halo, because that's the only thing that I think would have like an actual immediate like distaste in my mouth to be for something story related, because like when you think of stories, you want like new feature sets, and you want there to be actual new like changes that would happen to your user interface and stuff, like just like as
or even new mechanics,
exactly.
New gameplay mechanics, which I think would be great then as a spin-off. And then if it's properly received, or if it's well received, I should say,
right,
and then maybe it'll be adapted to the multiplayer in general.
True. I mean, it's a weird thing. It's hard to really quantify, because at the end of the day, too, like you have to spend millions of dollars on creating all these mechanics and everything, too. And like to a certain extent, it's like, you want people to entice them into getting the new thing. You know what I mean? It's like if you make something, I guess what it ends up being for Halo specifically would be like it's the difference between having ODST and a Reach and Halo 4. You know what I mean? Like Halo 4, when it came out, it's like, no, this is a legitimately new game, and you're going to actually get the new multiplayer. It was like, that's also why this is 4, Same thing that you should get with 5, where it's like, okay, this is 5, but like by the time you get 6, like you might have Guardians and all these other ones in between, but by the time you get one that's like legitimately 6, one that deserves the title of 6, that should be one that actually gives you enough stuff.
Yeah.
But then you run into a couple of issues there in regards to like, are you getting enough? Is it just like expansion packs like it used to be for the old computer days, where you got like the Duke Nukem Plutonium pack and you just get a couple new episodes and that's really it, and some new things to fight. But like you get like a new gun and that's more or less it. You don't really get too much new, but that was also a time when you were paying only $15 for that stuff. You weren't paying $60. The
True.
benefit of something like a platform would be like in the instance of Street Fighter. Where for Street Fighter, you would have for Street Fighter 4, right? You had vanilla Street Fighter 4, and then some time passed, and they came out with, was it Super First? I think it was Super First. So they came out with Super Street Fighter 4.
You talk about the different editions?
Yeah, so it was like Super. Was it Ultra? No, Ultra Edition was the last one. Then they did, I think it was Super, Arcade, then Ultra.
And then Ultra.
Yeah. So you had 3 different versions, but at the same time, too, they were, if you were just upgrading and you weren't buying a disc, you were only upgrading for, I want to say it was $15. And then if you bought the disc, I think the disc was $40. So you're paying a little bit more, but that was also because you were getting like an actual disc with the game printed on it, as opposed to like an upgrade. So you had paid your quote unquote one-time fee. What they're doing now with Street Fighter 5 is supposed to be like, this is just a platform. So there won't be an Ultra or a Super or an Arcade Edition, as they say. And you can get fight money in game. So you play the game, you earn fight money, and you accrue it that way. And then you're supposed to be able to buy each character as they add them in a month. So like this month, they're going to add Alex and a whole bunch of other modes actually that I think probably should have been there in the game in general when it first came out. But
all these things in the future will be free.
All free. The only things that you like can't purchase with the fight money. So there's two different currencies, right? You have fight money and you have something called zenny. Mm-hmm. The zenny is basically your paid money. So it's like if you think of like your normal free to play model, right? Yeah. Usually have like some form of money, and you have like diamond currency or something you have to pay like actual physical money for. So it's basically the same concept, but with this one, when you're playing like online or ranked, even against other players, you're accruing all this fight money, and it's 100,000 to unlock one character. So they're doing a character a month, where they're doing Alex this month, another character next month, another character next month, and then in June they're not doing a character, but they're also doing is a story update, and you're getting like the actual cinematic story mode. Then they're going back to a character a month until they've done the first season. But you can just get it without having to actually spend any money. So as long as you're playing the game and accruing fight money, you could theoretically end up getting all the characters without having spent an extra $1. You could actually buy a season pass if you so wanted to. Like maybe you're not getting enough fight money fast enough or something along those lines. But it's a little bit of a weird situation because 100,000 sounds like a lot. But you were there when we were playing the garbage story mode they have in there right now that ends, you could beat in an hour.
It's quick, yeah.
And you end up getting $100,000 through that real quick. You go into survival mode, and if you're playing on just easy, just to unlock the extra costumes, not the costumes, the colors. If you're doing that, I ended up getting like another $150,000 just from that. And like just from playing once through all the characters. And that was just an easy. So like I assume we go through normal and hard, and there's like hell mode or whatever. There's like a couple different modes to do it in. The issue primarily is that right now it's so bare bones, the game. So like to kind of grind for money at this point, and honestly playing the game in general, as much as I'm really enjoying playing it, there's so much stuff that's like impeding play. Because like
unless you're a competitor, it's probably
even if you're competitive, I mean it's a little bit if you're a competitive player, like they really tried to cater a lot to the competitive audience. But the problem is that it's such a brand new game that some of this stuff doesn't really fit quite yet. So in order to play a game online, right, there are, as it stands right now, there's lobbies. But if I want a lobby, it's only a 2-person lobby. So if me and you are in a lobby, that would be it. And that's the only way that I can actually turn character select on. Otherwise, I have to go into my profile, select a character, and make him my favorite. And then I can go into training mode, and I can have fight requests on, and like as I'm training, I can get a request. But I'm only playing as that character that I set as a favorite. But the issue then becomes is that I don't know which character is my favorite yet because I only have limited experience with these characters. I don't get the single player experience to actually like give them all a play. I don't have an actual opportunity to really do anything with them online because it's like I'm limited just as one. So like when do I get the chance to really play it? So like I end up choosing a character, and I feel like I'm kind of like, as much as I like playing with Nash right now, like I'm also feel like I don't have an opportunity to really play with anyone else because it's such a pain in the ass to do it. And it feels like also
it just
like
sounds so convoluted.
It is. It's really backwards. And like it's a situation where because I can't actually select these other characters, I'm almost at a point where I've played enough where I'm like, I'm never going to select the other characters because I'm just going to be worse. So it's like Nash is the only character now that I'm really good with, I tried to build some up with Rashid and like playing with it, but it ends up getting to the point where it's like I hate going back to switch it. So this month is when they're adding the actual lobbies that have 8 players. And that's when it actually becomes something more viable. So it's like this really weird situation where it's like if the game had just come out this month, honestly, like I feel like I probably would be playing it a lot more. Mm-hmm. But I'm at this point where I'm literally sitting there in training mode and I'm just kind of dinking around because there's no challenge mode or anything to kind of help me out. Maybe I'm on my laptop like looking up some moves and trying to figure out some combos and stuff. But really I'm mostly just like by the time I do one combo, I get another fight. And then I either win or I lose, and then I'm back in it, and then like I get 5 seconds in before another fight happens. So like I don't even get a chance to actually even like try out the character, you know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas like if I had a lobby and I can like spectate and I can kind of watch some other people play and I can kind of figure some stuff out, like there's just more alternative.
More interactive, and you're more engaged.
Right. Like I was sitting here and I was playing it 2 days ago. and I had my phone on, and I was sitting there in training mode, and I think I spent half an hour training. I was just like, fuck it, and I just put the stick down, and I just went on my phone, and I'm like, as soon as I hear, here comes a new challenger, I'll pick the stick up. And I was just doing other things while it was happening, and then that, like, I just let go. I was like, I can't even train. Like, there's no point into it. It was so frustrating, too, because it gets to a point where it's also a weird spot, because I'm not going to say that I'm, like, really great at the game or anything like that either, but, like, you know, I'm only in Super Bronze, and which is also, like, a really weird system where they have Bronze, Super Bronze, Ultra Bronze, then Silver, then Super Silver, then Ultra Silver. Like, it's just a really weird ranking system they have. But I'm sitting there in Super Bronze, and I'm not getting... You know, occasionally you get people that are, like, legitimately really good, but occasionally you also get people that are legitimately really bad. And that teaches you really bad practices. So, like, I'm sitting there, and I think that I spent an hour yesterday, and I was just kind of like, after I looked at it, I'm like, at one point I just got cognizant where it's like, no, I'm actively doing bad stuff. Because, like, I got to a point where I could just sit there and do a Sonic Boom with Nash, and then jump forward and do the Moonsault, and then I would just lead it as a combo, and then I would back up into the corner and do it again. I'm like, oh, no, this is no good. This isn't something I should be teaching myself. Like, this is actually a very bad...
You picked up on your own bad habits as they were being formed.
Right, but I'm like, this is forming this bad habit. Like, so, at this point, I've done it for an hour. I'm like, this is no good. This is very bad. I was like, all right, so I got to stop playing now. But, like, it's a situation where, because I'm stuck playing
it's pushing you away. It doesn't want you to play it. At least not right now.
It feels like it doesn't, because honestly, at every section, it's like I really want to play it and like it. And, like, the gameplay itself, it feels very solid. I really do like it. But the game itself is just like, no, like, it doesn't want to be played. It's not friendly to anyone that really wants to play it. And it seems to be the general response I'm getting from a lot of other people. You know, like, it seems like there's a lot of people that are like, it's a very complete game. It's not very welcoming. It doesn't really have much going on for it.
Yeah, that's what when I was saying it's only probably at best good for competitive players, because they can just stick to their one character,
right,
and just grind their matches in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it feels like.
But as a package, as a game package, it's nowhere near. It sounds like it's nowhere near what fans want it to be.
Not at all. And I mean, like, even though I think as, like, a competitive person, you run into this situation where the Capcom Cup was, you know, they pretty much rushed it out to get it out for the first round of the Capcom Cup. And I also feel like it was probably a fiscal year thing. They wanted to make sure they got it out before the end of the fiscal year to get some extra, like, boost in money through that. But you run into a situation where, you know, some of the big names, they're going to do what they're going to do. But at that point, like, you know, are they really going to, like, if they're going into an actual tournament, then at that point, they're probably just going to pick Ryu, because Ryu is Ryu. You know what I mean? So, like, are you doing anyone a service by catering to them? Because if you just make their favorite fighter Ryu, like, that's probably what they're going to go with. Like, no one's going to sit there and really, like, you know, and this is what I say, having not actually watched the Capcom Cup, so for all I know, they did. But, like, you know, I just feel like if you're going to go into a tournament, you're going to pick someone that you feel like you can actually win with. And you would probably just kind of, like, you know, you have such a short amount of time to have really mastered anyone by the time the first round happened. So, like, who would you go with? Just go with someone that's as close to this person that you know. You know, like, I'm sure there were some people that probably made pretty far because, like, go with Karen, or they went with Nash or whatever, and, like, they're novel and they have some sort of an ability to, like, understand them. They've got to play in the betas and stuff. And some of the higher names had access to the game earlier too and stuff. It's a weird place, but, like, at the same time too, it's like it feels like something that would be right at home with something like Ultra Street Fighter. But if they had put into place all of these different things with Vanilla Street Fighter, like, it would have killed that game in its infancy. Like, I don't feel like people would have been into it. And it just feels like, you know, as you kind of said, it just feels so incomplete, and, like, you know, it would have just benefited from just coming out this month instead. You know, I have all this money and I can't even go into the store to use it.
Just think about when those future characters come out.
I mean, honestly, like, I guess, like, I have enough to buy Alex, and that's cool, but I also, like, you know, the money also counts for costumes. Because you can't unlock costumes. You can unlock colors, but you can't unlock costumes. So I still have to buy the costumes, and I have no idea how much that costs.
How mad would you be if you have to buy the spectator mode or the 8-player lobby?
I mean, that would be some bullshit. I would be annoyed. But, like, I think they would have said as much. That would be fucked up.
Yeah, that would be messed up.
It would be really messed up. I'd be super disappointed with that. But I feel like they would have said as much if that were going to be the case.
You think they should have then just waited?
I feel like it would have been beneficial to wait.
at least till they got the 8-player lobby, you would say?
I mean, it feels like because, story mode, and I guess they probably, like, came a little bit late to the game. Where, like,
I can see
Mortal
story
Kombat's
mode giving
doing
it a little boost around then.
Right, and I could also feel, like, marketing-wise, like, okay, so story mode, we're going to come out with that in June.
Right.
Maybe that's, like, people kind of, like, statistically, most people buy a game within its first 2 weeks. And then at that point, like, it just kind of, like, drops down in terms of sales. It's, like, a very steep drop. So, like, maybe this would be a way to boost it and keep people interested in it. So we put out the story mode. Like, I can see that. But, like, when you have such basic features that are even on the start menu, it's not like I go to the start menu and I don't see, like, challenge mode or the store there. When I click on it, it's like, oh, but this is going to be something that comes out in March. So, like, it shouldn't be on the start menu. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like... It does feel like the game was meant to really come out in March. Those feel like things that were integral to the actual game itself. And you get to the point, too, where, like I said, like, I'm sitting there in training, and it's like, all right, so what can I do? And I have no other choice if I want to play this game other than just put the stick down and just wait for a fight. There's no other alternative there. Like, otherwise, I'd be sitting in challenge mode trying to clear some challenges,
Before it came out, how was the marketing for this game? Was it, did they say anything about how they plan to create it as a platform, or? They've
been talking about the platform for a while. I mean, they've kind of, like, even when they first announced it, and they had, like, all the trailers and stuff, they were like, we're going to do it as this platform with fight money. We're not going to try to, like, nickel and dime people.
Were they specific, though, about what would be included on day one?
They were a little bit...
Because the reason I'm asking is because if they were specific, but then it would be weird if, like you said, they still have the grayed out sections of the menus.
Right.
Which gives it that feeling, again, like you were explaining, how there's things missing. Instead of when they come, it's not going to feel like, oh, all right, cool, we got something extra. Right. It's going to be like, oh, finally, we got that.
As it got close to the launch is where we found out more things. We saw, like, they put out, like, I want to say it was on their Capcom or Capcom Unity website, is where they put, like, a map where it was, like, March, one character, March, not, and, like, that's when they kind of put that up there as it got close to the launch. But, they were pretty much upfront about, like, there's going to be more features and everything, and we're going to add characters, and there's going to be monthly characters. But it took a while before we found out how much the characters cost. Like, right now, it was just that, we heard there were 100,000. They might actually be more, they might actually be less. Like, it's not really, I think, 100% confirmed. That, like, I don't, as far as I'm aware at the moment, no one from Capcom has gone out and said, like, oh, it's going to actually be 100,000. I think it's just that, like, commonly accepted at this point it's going to be 100,000. Like, I don't actually remember who I had heard that it was going to be 100,000 from. I feel like it probably was Capcom, but that's one thing or another. But, like, there was no point where they were like, they didn't say, like, a year out, like, oh, like, when we launch this, we're not going to have challenges. There'll be something that comes in. Like, I was always under the impression that it would be stuff added would be the characters and things like that. And the story mode, because I remember they said a little bit in advanced story mode would be. But I think that, like, for me, as someone who was kind of following it somewhat closely, but not, I guess, like, too closely, like, you know what I mean? Like, I actually ended up not participating in, like, the last beta. Because at that point, I was like, the game's coming out, so, like, why even bother? Like, I don't really feel doing it. And I kind of got close to that feeling, too, at a certain point, as the game kind of reached, it's going to be out, so, like, why waste my time?
Right.
But I was kind of blindsided like a week beforehand. I was like, wait, it doesn't come with challenges? Like, it doesn't have lobbies? And, like, it was like, oh, it's spectator mode.
The more disappointed you became.
Right. It's like, as I got closer, I'm like, what the fuck am I buying? And, like, what did I buy?
$60, right?
Yeah.
Full price.
Yeah, I was like, I'm basically paying for a beta. Like, it's like, I played 4 betas. This is the 5th beta. It's like, it's got a little bit more features, and, like, these ones are ones that'll hold over until the full game comes out in March. Like, it felt kind of like that.
Killer Instinct's model was $20, you get everything, and then $40, you can get all the characters. I mean, all the costumes and the arcade games, right?
See, I don't know what they did for Season 2, but wasn't it also, like, when it first came out, it was also free? So it was actually, like, a free game, but you only get Jago.
But you only get one character, they rotate the characters, yeah. Right. But to get the full, all the characters, it was $20, right?
I think it was more than that.
It wasn't 60. I thought there was only 2. Or for the other ones? I thought it was for 2 tiers.
I don't know. There were 2 tiers, but I don't remember what was in the second tier then.
The second tier would include, because Season 2 included gold. Killer Instinct Gold for the 64.
Right, and the first one came
And
with
the
the
costumes.
arcade version of one.
Yeah.
Right, but I don't think you were spending an extra $20 just for that, were you?
Yeah, and then and all the costumes, all the extra costumes, because you couldn't get you got the retros, but you couldn't get the.
Right, because I feel like I
stuff.
still spent $60 on season 1 of Killer Instinct. I think I did.
Did you get Shadow Jago? Maybe
No, because Shadow Jago was
with the
originally that
Xbox Live
stupid card, right?
That's why maybe I'm thinking you're thinking that.
I don't know. It's been long enough. I don't remember. I only remember they came out with a free one. And I was like, well, fuck the free one. I was gonna buy it, and I ended up getting the one that came with the arcade game. So I got whatever the Ultimate Edition was for that, and then the same thing for season 2.
Season 2.
And I've been so removed from season 3. I barely touched season 2. Like I really liked Killer Instinct when it first came out, and then
Yeah, I'm sad to hear that you don't. It's not jiving with you.
Nah, season 2 did nothing for me.
I'm hyped for season 3.
I know,
Arbiter,
and
Battletoad.
Yeah.
I'm all about that, and it seems like they're staying true to the Arbiter.
Right.
And
I saw what they're
love
doing
that
with him.
stuff.
It seems really cool. With they're giving all these unique stuff, and they have, like,
and he's
his
gonna have different
overshield and
outfits
stuff.
with his other, like his other energy sword with his classic outfit.
Yeah.
He's gonna have his like assault armor. It's pretty sick.
It seems cool. Like honestly, it looks cool. Like I'm in a place where it's like I don't know. I really don't know with 3.
Well, they'll have the free character, I guess. So maybe check it out.
True.
Play some a bit.
It's just like every time that I try to jump into 2, I couldn't get into it at all.
What, the gameplay or
the gameplay itself,
the
the presentation of it, I really hated. The characters.
How do you like the art style, the changes to how they look? And,
yeah, it didn't really do much for me. And I feel like the characters that they were creating, like I appreciate them going and like trying to make a whole bunch of new ones, but I really didn't care. And like it was kind of disappointing too, because I was like, oh, TJ Combo's in. TJ Combo used to be cool, and I was like,
they got his retro though.
Right, that's true. But like, who else was in there from like? I don't even know who was returning.
Yeah, everybody's back. Everybody's back. Season 3, everybody will be back. Tusk will be back, and Kim Woo's back.
Okay.
And that's it. Those are the last 2 characters they needed. And what's cool though is because like even though the new designs, like Cinder's new design is a lot different, but they still got his fireman retro costume.
True.
So
that's really cool. Did they ever bring back the Gargoyle?
No, him and Idol.
Yeah.
Gargoyles and Idol they're not coming back for season 3.
No.
No. But I don't know, the gameplay, I just love it. You know, I just like it's not super difficult to get into. And it's just really fun.
You know what else I remember being for the Killer Instinct 2? I think was also you got the story mode.
Yeah.
You were paying a little bit more to get the story mode. And I remember actually when I played the story mode was actually when I stopped pretty much playing Killer Instinct.
No, everybody got the story mode for free.
Right, but when story mode came out, because it took a year or whatever for it to come out, like they actually made all the characters first, and then story mode came out or whatever. That's when I dropped. That's like
came out, I think only like a few months later.
I mean, it was a while before story mode was out.
Oh, I mean season 2. I'm saying season 1.
Season 1.
Oh no, yeah.
Because that's actually when I pretty much dropped Killer Instinct. Cause
I don't think there was a season story mode in season 1, was there?
Yeah. I can't tell you what it was about.
It's like a distant memory from season 1 and 2
long.
already.
I honestly don't remember. I just remember like that's pretty much when I dropped Killer Instinct though, because like by that time I was like, oh, the story mode's cool, and like I think I tried it with Orchid, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing in this game anymore. I have no fucking clue what's happening.
Oh yeah, wasn't doing it for you?
Nope. Nope.
That's Killer Instinct Orchid. That's a song. Oh yeah.
Keep going.
It's a beautiful
Keep
song.
Going.
I can't hit those
fatality.
notes. I can't do a fatality. Oh, they brought back some stage ultras and character specific. I don't know if do they have character specific. I don't know. I'm a mess.
It sounds like they're doing right by Killer Instinct.
Yeah.
And all things considered, like especially when I paid and I got the arcade edition and whatever, and I tried to play the arcade edition, and the arcade Killer Instinct kind of sucked. It was never really that good, and it was good because you could yell ultra combo.
You just that was in a time when they were getting. That was the first game, right, to have crazy high numbers for combos.
Right, you had like all this, ridiculous.
Because Street Fighter were low numbers for a few hit combos.
Pretty much didn't have like all these juggles and stuff, and it was like a fighting game on like a Nintendo system and stuff. That you really
and then those rendered graphics,
Yep. You had a skeleton who was fighting like this robot. And it was like the characters
themselves
kind of look cool. Like
a skeleton fighting a robot fighting a werewolf.
It's cool.
fighting a gargoyle as a boss.
Sounds fucking cool.
That's so
like
awesome.
When you go into an arcade, you'd see it there, like Qzar or whatever. Like you'd want to play it.
Yeah, I personally love the character design, and Hisako, she's reminiscent of the Japanese.
But she's also just straight up is from the ring. Like they didn't do much else other than that. You know?
That's great. That's what her design, but her weapon too. I like it.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but
I think it's out at the end of this month too. So
it's soon.
Yeah,
and it's coming out on day and date with the computer, which is segueing into the other thing we were talking about a little bit earlier.
Well, Phil Spencer, right? He was. I have some quotes actually that he said. Well, I didn't quote him exactly, just some paraphrasing. He made some points about making a cheap. I just throw them out there first. He makes points about making a cheaper and smaller console over time. How that's important. Continued backwards compatibility is important. That Microsoft wants to be a driving force of the platform, and forward compatibility. So any games they release now will be compatible with future hardware they come out with. Just generally that it makes sense for a user to buy a game once and have it accessible on multiple Xboxes.
Right.
He can see a future where the Xbox One can be upgraded instead of replaced, which is, I think, probably one of the most interesting things he said at this conference. But I just have to question if it never worked before. Well, how could something like that work now? What is the demographic different for that?
It's a different situation. It's a different time period. Like, there's a lot of things I question because I don't question the concept. I think the concept is sound. And when you look at something like the current generation of systems, they're so. It's like hard to articulate, really. Honestly, it's like they're disappointing in general.
Weak. They're
the computer is still more powerful at this point than they are. They haven't really had much going on for them in general.
Just Cause 3, I want to play that game so bad, but I just don't want to play it on my computer.
Right.
I want to just hang out, play it on my console. I mean, granted, I can connect my computer to my TV.
But then why even bother having a console? You know what I mean? It's like there needs to be some reason to have them.
Just Cause 3 on consoles, it's not 60 frames. It has frame rate issues.
So I feel like what they're doing a lot is like a kind of future-proofing it because it's kind of like, well, if we come out with an Xbox 2 or if we come out with PlayStation 5, like what are we really going to add to it? Like how are we really going to be able to get people to buy another console? Because at this point, like people are buying consoles, but the question is when you really think about it, it's kind of like, well, why? I mean, I guess because the computer is a little bit daunting and there's a little bit more of like an alternative, and there is such like a frequent like need to upgrade and do all this other stuff to it.
Yeah, to maintain it.
But when all is said and done, I mean, like, would they really want to sit there? Like, one of the big selling points is that you can look at something like an Xbox One and the Xbox 2 hypothetical, and you'd be like, oh, well, this one looks vastly improved. You really won't get that much of a jump, between now and then. And when you're thinking about something between, like, the way that the landscape is all changing, like, even with now, like, you think about the fact that the Xbox 360 lasted 8 years. Like, it was, like, a very long console generation overall. Even, like, all the systems were kind of, like, put out there for way longer than they should have been. And you run
definitely overstayed their welcome.
Definitely, and you get to this point where it's like, are you going to do another 8 years and then try to sell someone another system? Like, people are moving on to tablets. They have computers. Computers are kind of, like, viable. And, like, when you think about...
I feel like, well, it's anecdotal, of course, but I feel like there's a lot more people into PC gaming these days.
Definitely, because Steam is really easier to get into, and you have all these other options with it, and you have more freedom. And when you think about something like the ease of use of something like a console is that you can just plug and play, do it into a computer, and that's it. But really, a computer is more or less the same thing. And we all are into these same situations where, like, like you said, you can play Just Cause on your TV. I can play all my PC games. I can just throw them right up on the TV. It's no difference. Like, I mean, so when I think about it, and I can still use a controller. So, like, why do I need these systems? You know what I mean? Like, they don't actually do anything. I'm getting inferior versions of the product I can get for the same price, actually sometimes cheaper because they're on the computer through Steam, and I can just play in the same exact way because I can plug my Xbox One controller or my PlayStation 4 controller right into it, and I can just go. Like, there's really no difference. And when
the active experience in the game is obviously better on a computer.
Right. Like, I'd get it more, it would run better.
The same or better.
I would have more options. Like, I would be able to actually do mods and stuff like that to make things run better or altered. Like, there's a lot more freedom allowed to me at that point. And when I'm looking at something like these consoles, I mean, really don't have that. And then it's like, so at that point, you need exclusives. But when you're looking at the exclusives, you really don't have much of any of these. So, like, you need to kind of, at some point, like, make yourself look a little bit better, and you need to do things. It's like, I see where Microsoft's coming from that angle, because they're trying to get ahead of the game, where they're saying, like,
Unifying
we have
platforms.
Microsoft, because Microsoft is really all that matters. It's not like the Xbox division or, you know, the Windows division matters. It's just Microsoft, because that's the one that they want to get money. It's just if Microsoft's making money, they're all making money, it's happening, the company can flourish, that's all that matters. You know, so there's no point in, like, keeping everything segregated. So, like, why not leverage all of these things you have? So, you know, you get this point where it's like, okay, so if you buy Killer Instinct, all of your stuff's going to transfer over, and you can buy Killer Instinct 3, and you can get a day and date for the computer. And then all of it will transfer over it, and it works, you know?
Right.
And then same thing with, like, you know, you buy Quantum Break. You get Quantum Break, you also get it for free on the computer. So, you know, they're going to come out with a free version of Forza 6. It's like, you know, Apex. It's not like a full-fledged version of the game. You know, it's somewhat different, but, like, they're giving you for free a version of Forza 6 to kind of put it out there. Like, it just makes a lot of sense to kind of go about doing that, unifying things.
Right.
You know, when we were talking about the NX earlier, it's one of the things that makes the most sense about the NX is that, you know, you have the 3DS right now and you have the Wii U. And why wouldn't you want to have these things unified to really be one coherent thing? You know, it just seems to be the smart way to go. So, like, it just seems to be that that's the future way to do things. Because when all is said and done, you know, why split your differences? Like, just kind of get money for the one company and make it go from there.
It's all about the unity, bringing it all together.
Right.
A house divided cannot stand. Abraham Lincoln.
Preach.
Yeah.
Don't get shot in the head, though. But
that got real dark. I had to let that register for a second.
Yeah, look, it's like, oh shit, am I?
Checked over my corner,
it's like, oh shit.
my shoulder.
It's the Assassination Podcast. We just hook every week someone gets killed.
Speaking of assassinations, though, Assassin's Creed is taking a year off this year.
Nice. Very
you
nice.
know. So how do you feel about that?
I mean, did you play
Syndicate?
Yeah.
Nah.
I
have access to it, but I can't say that I played it for more than like 15 minutes, you know?
I liked it. I played Unity, and Unity sucked. Unity was garbage, and it had so many bugs and whatever. And Syndicate was better, but I feel like even then, like, I'm still very fatigued on Assassin's Creed. So I think it really needed to be kind of put off for a year.
Yeah, I agree.
I just think it was just surprising to see them actually do it, because, you know, when they came out with when they announced Syndicate, they're like, you know, there was all these mea culpas, and they're like, oh, we apologize, and, like, you know, Unity was trash, and we
learned from that experience. We're going to bring you something that's finally something we believe in.
Right.
Day one.
Mm-hmm. But I think that Syndicate, I have no idea what the sales numbers for it were. I feel like what most have happened, I just think from my experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
I waited for Black Friday sale. I knew it was going to be on Black Friday.
Of course.
It was no point in me picking it up day and date. And I was like, I'm also not going to pick it up day and date because I have no idea if it's actually going to be good. You can say all these things, even though, like, you know, Scuttlebutt seemed to indicate that it was kind of going to be decent at least. But I was like, I'm not going to spend $60 on it in a month. I can get it for $30. So I waited, and that's when I picked it up. But, you know, like I said, most of the sales of a game come from those first 2 weeks, and you start seeing some heavy drops. And, you know, I don't know to what degree they recovered from Black Friday sales.
I had fun with Unity. I liked the co-op experience of how they designed some of the missions. But overall, I'm glad they're taking this year off, though.
Right.
So this year is definitely going to make for a better game next year.
I would hope so. You know?
And plus, you know, it doesn't mean that they are sleeping on Assassin's Creed as a franchise this year.
Right. It just means they're making it a 2-year franchise.
Right. They have the movie coming out. They just had Chronicles China.
Yeah,
right?
those Chronicle games are weird, though, and I really don't like them at all.
India was the one that just came out.
They did an India, a Russian, and a China one. I think at this point, all of them are out. Maybe the last one comes out next month. I'm not too sure. I'm not like... I played the China one, and I was like, I don't know. It didn't really do anything for me, so I never got too into them. Like, the lore of Assassin's Creed also is, like, the issue, because when they had those first 3, you know, it was a lot tighter, and you had the whole Desmond arc and all this other stuff going on, and they haven't really done anything like that since. Like, 4, you had the cool thing with the video game company, and they were, like, doing what they were doing. They were, like, the evil corporation and stuff, and, like, you were playing as the Templars and stuff. Like, I mean, that was cool. But at the same time, like, they've never really done anything to move over, like, the overall narrative of the series, which was the thing about Syndicate that actually was most interesting, because it was finally, like, a game after, like, 4 games of spinning your wheels let's move forward, and it seems like they're actually going to do new things, like progress was made.
Yeah. The rumor for the next Assassin's Creed is going to be in Egypt.
Right.
That'll be interesting.
Which would be very cool. That was the other thing about the Assassin's Creed games. That was like something that was so exciting about the games when they first announced it was like, yo, you're going to be in like where was the first game that took place? Where was it? Fucking
Rome or something?
No.
Assassin's Creed 1 you're talking about?
Yeah. Where was Altair?
Jerusalem.
It was around there. Fucking I can't. Shit. But like you were playing in a place that no games really take place in. Same thing when you had 2. It was like there's really no games that take place in Italy. Like it's really not something that's like all over the place, And then when 3 was like American Revolution, like there's not that many American Revolution games. And then like it got to the point where like maybe those got like as it got on, there are American Revolution games. Like like you really didn't have any that take place in those other settings. Think of something like Egypt. Like you really can't name too many games that take place in Egypt. So that's like something cool was seeing and exploring these new areas.
Yeah, let's see how because they do their research,
right?
And they plug some history, whether it's real or slightly fictional.
Yeah,
but it'll be interesting to see their take on it.
It will be. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it. And they redeem themselves with this game. So yeah,
definitely. And what they Watch Dogs might be launching this fall, right?
Right.
Is that's confirmed?
What they said. Yeah. Like we're getting Watch Dogs 2 this year. I know a lot of people are. Did you play Watch Dogs?
Yeah.
What did you think?
I liked it. To the I can't replay it. That's not a game I can go back to.
Right.
And I don't really enjoy the sandbox of that world. It feels too heavy and grounded. But I feel from Assassin's Creed 1 to Assassin's Creed 2 is what they could do from Watch Dogs to Watch Dogs 2. There's so much room for improvement.
I agree.
The potential is definitely there.
Mm-hmm.
I like the shooting mechanics and the cover mechanics. Some of the gameplay around controlling his character is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
As to first thing I'm thinking of comparing in my head is GTA, for example. I don't like GTA's controls whatsoever.
Right.
Whether first person or third person, GTA just feels too clunky for me. Aiming, if it wasn't for the auto aim, if you could take the auto aim off in GTA 5, but it just feels terrible. But Watch Dogs feels like a better control game, so I'm excited to see where they go with 2.
Same thing, like more or less.
Other than the driving, of course, but
yeah, I mean. My issue with the game really was like a lot of the story related stuff. And I feel like a lot of hacking stuff could have been better. I mean, obviously the way they sold it and the way it ended up being was never going to be the way it was actually going to turn out. You're never going to get like this kind of fully realized world. But like you said, I feel like you can get a jump between 1 and 2 like you did with Assassin's Creed, where Assassin's 1 was basically just like a prototype. And like you really got like the series came into its own with 2. I mean, I would be interested in seeing what happens with a Watch Dogs 2. Like, I would really want to play it,
See how far they go with the hacking, because mostly it was just button prompts, around the environment.
It was very basic.
It was very basic,
yeah.
But I don't know, I kind of liked it. It was cool, as like we said, what you just said about Assassin's Creed 1, as a prototype, a concept, and to see how they further expand it.
I hear you on the world, though, and like I think that's a problem that a lot of Ubisoft games have kind of had in general, where they all the Ubisoft model. It's like you climb things, you reach a tower, and like, even when the Crew came out, which actually was very disappointing to me because when they first showed the Crew, I was like, oh, this should be really cool, and I was actually excited for it. And it was basically you were still climbing towers even in like a just now at this point, instead of being on foot, you're doing it in cars. I was like, all right, so I guess the Ubisoft model knows no bounds.
People love unlocking towers, though.
I don't know, man. It just gets so boring to me,
Yeah.
I can't deal with it. And, even... I think even Far Cry Primal basically has, like, more or less towers and stuff.
Far Cry 3, 4...
Yeah, but, like, Primal, you'd be like, this is, like, prehistoric. What the hell am I doing, like, getting to vantage points and doing it?
I just think Ubisoft fans just love unlocking... towers.
Oh, do they? Because I feel like I'm hearing them kind of get fatigued with it too. Like I feel like it's a general feeling that I'm getting.
I can see the fatigue. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I feel like most people kind of like
settling in.
Not interested in that anymore.
That's why I don't think they called it Far Cry 5. I think would be the next one.
It would be, but Far Cry's in a weird place because I don't know if you remember with 3 they did Far Cry and then they came out with Blood Dragon, which was like this cyberpunk like kind of $20 cool. downloadable game, and it was like
I would love for them to come up with something like that again.
Yeah, and that's kind of more or less what Primal is, but it's not like as tongue-in-cheek or comedic. This one's more of like a Did you play 4 at all?
Yeah.
So like, do you remember?
The co-op was kind of cool.
Yeah. I actually really liked 4. Like, I thought 3 was better because it was more newer, and I think I liked the world and the characters a little bit better in comparison. You really didn't get to see the villain that much in 4. But remember you had those like hallucination things, and you would go into the past.
The story sequences, yeah.
It was pretty much the whole game was just that.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's really not a $6 game.
How would you like it if the next Far Cry game was just a fully realized Blood Dragon?
That would be cool. Like, I like Blood Dragon. I thought Blood Dragon was cool. I mean, I
loved it. I loved the retro
points,
style
the joke
to
was
it.
a little bit ran its course. I was like, I get it. But,
or how about just another expansion then to Primal, or just one expansion to Primal, which is Blood Dragon, but it's like the barbarians with laser guns and shit. That could be cool.
That would be weird. That'd be weird. That'd be interesting. I honestly don't know what I would want from a Far Cry 5. Honestly, it's such a weird place because like I said, I didn't hate 4, but it was still more of the same.
Yeah. And
I feel like if 5 just ends up being more of the same, like I'd be so less interested in
1 and 2 were drastically different games,
totally
right?
Different.
And from 2 to 3.
2 to 3 was still pretty different. Like 2 was like slavishly realistic in a lot of ways, and like they were very ambitious with a lot of stuff.
That was the first map editor, right?
What do you mean?
When they added the map editor to the game?
I don't know about
the multiplayer map editor.
Multiplayer.
You can create your own maps and game types and stuff.
Maybe. I a lot of the multiplayer stuff I haven't been paying too much attention to with that game.
Yeah, true.
But like 2 was very much like you had these little sections that were kind of cordoned off with things, and there was a lot of realistic like action going on with it. You had like a character that could revive you depending upon how much they liked you, so you never really died. Like, and they would also die, so like if you didn't have like a thing to revive them, then they would like ask you to kill them. Like, it was like all this relationship stuff. Like, it was a very ambitious game. But then you go from 2 to 3, and it was like a very drastically different game even then. But then you go to 3 to 4, and it's like, well, here's more of an open world, skin some items,
and then now Primal.
Do whatever you do. And Primal's just now do it again, but without guns.
Yeah.
You know?
All clubs and spears, right?
Right, and everything involves you needing to hunt now because it's prehistoric era, so you have to kill this saber-tooth, you have to kill this mammoth, and whatever, you know. The other game relied on those things, but they weren't the only options you had, you know. I like I said, I'm interested in seeing what they do with 5, but I hope it ends up being let's take a look at our series and do some stuff. Like Ubisoft in general, I feel like really kind of needs to reevaluate a lot of what franchises they're doing, you know, before they fatigue them and before they kind of like kill them, before they kind of like kill any interest that people have in them, you know. Mm-hmm. One of the things I think, I don't know if you had heard, just because we're talking about Ubisoft and like, you know, some of the announcements and things that are happening, you know, you heard about Activision not going to E3?
And EA, right?
Yeah, EA, they're not going to have booths. Like, I think EA, I think, is doing their play event, if I remember right. So they're holding like their own event, I think, the Sunday before E3. So instead of like having a physical presence there, they're pretty much doing their own keynote and stuff. I don't know what Activision's doing. Activision, I think, because they never really do keynotes, they usually just like go to Microsoft or Sony's, and that's when they'll show Call of Duty. I think they said when they announced that they weren't going to be at E3 that they were kind of like, we're just going to have whatever games in the Sony booth or whatever, and I think that's what they said because they're partnered with them.
Yeah.
You know, it's just an interesting thing, you know, like E3 losing 2 huge members, you know. Yeah,
we probably see we said this before, you know, like it just makes sense for these big names or just companies in general to have your own events and your own focus, you know, your own time to show off your products in the spotlight.
And you're seeing a lot more, like, you know, you have Nintendo with the Directs, you have Sony with the PlayStation Experience, you have Microsoft with their Spring Fling. I feel like the Microsoft thing really got no hype. Like, I mean,
they used to have the X1, I mean X10, remember that back then? But they don't really. It doesn't seem like they have a specific. Like PlayStation has a PlayStation event every year now. You know?
Like I don't know what Microsoft's gonna do because like honestly, when you think about what happened with the spring event, they announced a lot of stuff. Like when you think about the Universal stuff, like the fact that like they didn't say one way or the other what they're actually gonna do with their future plans, and like that seems to be what Phil Spencer's like. This is what I see in the future, but it's not really like 100% guaranteed this is where they're gonna go. And like it was a really weird way to announce it because like it didn't really come with like an actual act of doing anything, you know what I mean?
Right.
So like what they say now and then what they announce like the next like or what they announced at even E3 could be totally different. But you kind of see like, you know, when all is said and done to look at it in retrospect, was a pretty big thing. It was still a pretty big event. Like, it's the closest thing they pretty much have to an X10 day, you know?
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to see because, like, honestly, you know, when you start thinking about it, it's like E3 is something that's important to us because it's something that we kind of grew up with, and it's been around since the mid-90s and everything. But, you know, at a certain point, you know, when you even hear some of the people that go to it, it's kind of like, you know, it's like a shell of itself. It's really not the same. It doesn't really have the importance that it has, and it's just kind of like, well, why? And then there's some people like, you know, the Giant Bomb guys don't even go to the press conferences. They just watch them in the stream, and then they'll live stream.
I mean, it
them
makes sense.
commenting
It
over
totally makes sense. Yeah.
You know, it's like, what's the point? Like, you know, you have to
You
go
wait hours and hours to play a game for 5 minutes, or whatever it is.
Right.
You know.
Or, you know, when you think about a press conference, right? When you think about the press conference itself, it's like, well, what is the experience we get? We sit in front of a TV screen or a computer, and we watch some guy sit in the stage, and they talk for a couple hours, and they announce a bunch of things, and, like, it's a lot of hype and everything, and that's it. But, like, if you think about what it's like to go there and have to do coverage, you have to bring all of these cameras, and you have to do all this stuff, and you have to get spots, and you have to get good seating, and you have to do all this other stuff, and it's like, well, why?
A lot of time and resources it takes up, right?
And then you can just relax, do whatever content from that, and then just, you know, go home, or, like, you know, go to the forum, go play some things. You know, it seems like most people at this point, it's all appointment based. It's like, you know, you hear from some of these other websites, and they're like, so, like, you know, I had this appointment. It's like, no one's really sitting on lines waiting for anything, you know? So, like, you kind of have to question at certain points, like, so why waste the money on having this booth and this whole setup and this whole intricate thing?
I do like the conference, though. Because there's not, it's completely different seeing something revealed, like the Nintendo Directs.
Right.
I compare those to, like, something when they revealed Twilight Princess.
Right.
People were, like, crying in the audience, and that's an experience where just watching that is something I remember, even though I wasn't even in that room. You know?
I feel you, and, like, that's what I'm saying. Is
watching
like,
a conference
as
live.
us that kind of grew with this stuff, you know, it's very interesting to see. But
on multiple levels, it's starting to become less relevant.
Right.
And make less sense.
And it costs these companies
people.
so much money to run.
Right.
You know, you have to go, and how much time do you have to spend on this presentation and, like, all this other stuff. And it's like, for why, to what end? Like, when I could just do, like, a commercial from this and just do it. And on our end, it's like, it's cool to have all this, you know, the ambiance and, like, everyone kind of yelling or crying, like the reaction shots and stuff. And it's, like, interesting, and it makes you feel like, you know, a connection to it. But when all is said and done, you know, what's the difference to us at home between a conference and a direct? You know, it's still, you're seeing the game. You know, it might as well be the same exact thing, live or not. You know, it doesn't really matter. I mean, same thing with, like, the PlayStation experience. It's like, I remember actually watching the PlayStation experience and being more annoyed at a lot of things because it was live. Because you have these...
Their camera angles were so atrocious.
I'm like, I can't see the games. That's what I'm here for.
No, yeah, their presentation was terrible.
Yeah. And then you run into something with that, too, where, you know, like you said with Twilight Princess, you know, you have to kind of take into account, it's like, you know, these men crying over this game. It's like, well, really, they're at an event, and they're supposed to be professionals. Should they really be crying?
You got to tell me you weren't crying at home?
No. Well, I wasn't crying. Like, I know this. I know the exact picture you're talking about too, with the IGN guys, and they're crying, and they're sitting there, and, like, they're doing the yell, and they're like.
I'm talking about when Miyamoto came off on stage, and, like, people were screaming in the audience.
You know what I mean?
Stuff.
Like the actual, like, the trailer when they showed it, and you see, like, the huge like and, like, there's, like, pictures you can find of people that were legitimately.
No,
like,
I'm talking about the actual event. I mean, like, I'm just assuming there were people. I don't know for a fact.
Like, there's pictures you can find of, like,
really?
Like, yeah, like, the
cool.
Like, you know, there's the IGN. I think you can see, like, there's, like, sitting
people
there.
taken within the crowd and stuff.
Yeah, like, they're
That's
sitting
awesome.
there on, like, a couch, and they have, like, this face, and, like, you see it afterwards. They're like, it just plays really well for a podcast, but you see, like, how, like, excited they are and hyped. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like, I guess this discussion we can have is, like, the professionalism you should have is, like, should you be that type of person, like, who. Like, you know, I'm not to say you shouldn't have a reaction.
Was it? It's only press there, or?
Well, that's supposed to be what it is. Is like back in that day, you know, obviously you had people that would still like.
Yeah, but I mean, they're only human,
they were, like,
you know.
GameStop employees and stuff, and they're like, you know, oh, I have a blog and I can get in, and, like, E3's kind of cracked down a little bit more on that stuff. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, it's supposed to be people that are, like, professionals. Whereas you look at something like the PlayStation experience, which was actually a bit more open about the fact that it's for people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
that was great.
It was great to see, and it's like I understand that they have these reactions because they're fans. At the same time, though, it, like, makes it annoying to hear an announcement, and it's like, oh man, it's like everyone's kind of hyped right now for this. I can't hear what's going on, and also, fuck, they're hyped about like this garbage game that I don't care about at all. It's like, what's happening? And like, you know, it's all self-serving too. You have to think about the marketing and all of the psychological impacts that's happening because, man, everyone's so hyped. Like, yeah, we really wanted a new Crash Bandicoot. It's like, did you really want a new Crash Bandicoot? No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You really didn't want a Crash Bandicoot.
I don't know. I think there's like dozens of people that want a new Crash Bandicoot.
There's exactly 1 dozen. They all worked on the original Crash Bandicoot.
Truth be told, though, even though I'm not too much, I used to play a lot of Crash 1 and 2 back in the day, but I wouldn't mind Crash coming back, you know? It's just his character, he seems like a good character mascot for PlayStation. So, personally, I'd be a fan of Crash coming back.
Right, but, you know, it's a couple questions regarding that, too, where it's like, you know, would he be PlayStation exclusive at this point? I don't know if he necessarily would. Well, he wasn't. He hasn't been owned by Naughty Dog in a while because he was sold to.
I know he appeared on Xbox.
Yeah, because it was Vivendi and all these other like companies owned him, and I want to say Activision was actually the last one, the ones that currently own the rights to Crash. I think. You know, it's hard to see where the rights are necessarily for him, but you know, it would depend on what happens.
Let's get him on a Nintendo console and let's get him in Smash. Let's get it done.
That'd be crazy to see, but I also super wouldn't care.
I got Sakura speed down.
You know, I wouldn't care at all. I don't know. I've never really. My hot take is I never really cared about Crash like at all. He never did anything for me. Even as a mascot, he was just never really all that much of an interesting mascot because he was just so edgy. And it was like, you know, you had like this progression. You had Mario, and then you had Sonic, who was more edgy, and then you had this like you had to out edge.
He had the
you know, because
the teenager.
That was all he was edge. You know, and they had to make someone that was more edgy. It was like very indicative of a time period. And you know, you're in a state now where mascots are weird because you really don't need mascots anymore. Like a lot of.
Well, I don't know if it's a matter of need. It's just a matter of desire.
But I don't know if you can have a mascot anymore, really. Like, I mean, when you think about the PlayStation, it's like, honestly, would the mascot be Crash? Like, even if it were to be PlayStation,
I'm saying if they can make him that.
Well, I don't know.
But
I mean, because like you think about the audience and everything. Like, I mean, honestly, the mascot. If you had to pick a mascot for, you know, Sony, it probably would be Call of Duty.
Or Drake.
Yeah, you know, like I mean, he wouldn't really be Crash. No, like, you know, like there was a time.
Sony doesn't really have mascots, I guess. Well, they're exclusives, but it's not on the same level, I guess, as Nintendo mascots or like maybe even Master Chief.
Right, because I mean, those are characters. Like I honestly, like I know you're super into Halo and like Master Chief a lot, and he's quote unquote, I guess you can call him the mascot of Microsoft in a way. But like, you know, Microsoft kind of like entered the market at a time place where mascots just weren't a requirement of the game. Like, you know, like it was just the time and place was you had a Mario and you had something that represented your company. You had a Sonic and someone that was like represented your company and the ideology. And you know, you had a Crash Bandicoot and someone that represented a company and the ideology. It's like you really didn't have that with Microsoft. Like, I mean, Master Chief doesn't really like represent the attitude that Microsoft embodies. You know what I mean? He's not like, you don't look at Master Chief and say like, oh, I look at Master Chief and I understand what Microsoft is about. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's interesting that you view it that way. I don't.
Yeah.
I just see it as like characters that appear on their systems that represent different kinds of games, you know.
Right, but at that point, that's just really exclusives. That's all that is. You know?
Right. Like, that's how I view it.
Wouldn't call like Pikachu a mascot for Nintendo or anything. Like it's obviously.
That's where the terminology of mascots. That's why even Smash Brothers, I never really called it a mascot fighter.
Right.
You know, I know you do though, but I never have because I never viewed them as like in that sense of mascot, only being a representative for that brand.
Right.
Whereas Smash Brothers, like you were about to say with Pikachu, that's why I never identified it as such.
Right.
You know?
But I was even gonna say even with Pikachu is honestly like, you know, Pikachu doesn't embody like the thoughts of Nintendo, but in more so ways than a lot of other characters he does. You know what I mean? Like
it's more just like characters that are just part of a brand, like you said, exclusive.
Right. I think it's just that with Nintendo, it's a more cohesive brand experience over all of these different franchises that can quote unquote make them mascots. And I think to an extent Sega has that as well, because when I think about, like, I can imagine a universe in which Toe Jam and Earl, Sonic, Knuckles, you know, Ulala all live together. You know what I mean? Like there's a Sega verse I can think of, you know, and it starts to deteriorate as I get like close to otherwise.
I don't know. I can't. I mean, I guess I can't though. But like, see that I can see the Nintendo because they're all like cartoony in a sense, you know, or like they all fit into Smash Brothers with that style. But like even back in the first Smash, when I saw Link in the game with Pikachu, it just didn't make any sense to me. You know, or Captain Falcon. Like, well, who the hell is this man beating up Jigglypuff? You know, it was just all very like back then. I was conscious of that. You know,
I think to an extent a lot of that might just be because they were humanoids, and I think that like Captain Falcon was the mascot character, quote unquote, of F-Zero, but like he was the Blue Falcon was like you never really saw Captain Falcon.
And you got to build your mascots at some point, then, right?
You know.
So I mean, like that's why I want Sony and Microsoft to continue building these things more.
Right. It just seems to me like, you know, from my perspective, like a waste because at this point it's just not something you need to put any of the marketing money into. Because that's honestly what a mascot, when all is said and done, is.
It does help. But it'll help sell their games, though. If they put that money into building like a Banjo-Kazooie as a mascot, it'll inevitably help with their sales.
I don't know. I mean, you know, hard to say one way or another until it's actually done, you know.
Yeah, true.
But like it just feels like, you know, the time period for mascots had its time, man. It just seems like the time is gone, man. It's not really needed anymore. You know, I love mascots. You know, like I love mascot, like, you know, franchise games, like, you know, character-driven games or whatever. Like, you know, I really enjoy them so much. But like, you know, a lot of that comes from just because of our age and the time period, whatever as it is. Just, you know, when we think about the 20-year difference between now and this, it's like, you know, the way kids are now. So I don't know if they necessarily respond to mascots in that way. You look at something like
I don't know, cause you any of your students that you teach are into like Plants vs Zombies or anything like that? No. I know
Minecraft and
I know a bunch of kids into that identify with like different Plants vs Zombies characters, like the scientist or whatever. So I don't know. I guess. It's all anecdotal, of course.
It is, yeah, definitely.
So, like you said, it's hard to see one way or the other to say for absolute certainty.
Definitely.
But, you know, it's just always something interesting to think about, at least, you know.
I mean, like I said, with Minecraft is huge. Minecraft doesn't have really a mascot character. I mean, you have Steve and you have the...
Well, just that design, I guess.
I mean, like the aesthetic of it, but like that's really it. But Minecraft is like huge. Kids love it, you know. And then the other game that I see a lot, like, you know, straight up like Mario has staying power. Like, you know, one of the kids I work with, you know, he's like, I had he has a DS. He just plays Yoshi's Island games. I got him for his, like, you know, end of year gift and stuff. Like,
see, that's good to see when kids are still playing Nintendo games.
Right. You know, like it's just that they've built such a solid and like their foundation of everything.
Yeah, they've built that up over the years. You know? That's important, you know.
But you don't really see that with anything else. Like I don't really see like one of the other kids I have. He plays Call of Duty, but it's like he was like, "Yo, should I get the Xbox?" Like he has no brand affinity one way or the other. Like, you know, like he's just like, I just want to play.
Yeah,
Call
but
of Duty.
that could just be that kid. I mean,
exactly. You know? But like, you know, like when it came down to it, he's like, you know, he used to have the 360. And he's like, what should I get? And he's like, you know, I was like, you should get the PlayStation 4. And he's like, you know, but what about the Xbox? And he had this whole like thing with it. And, you know, he ended up getting the PlayStation 4 and he has all these games for it. But like, you know, he's like into the racing games, Call of Duty and stuff like that. He just has like no interest in like, he bought Metal Gear.
Is he into any indie games?
Not really.
No.
Just really wants to.
So he's just going to develop into he's a mainstreamer right now.
Pretty
just one of the cold mainstreamers. Because I mean, there's mainstreamers that play like a good diversity of games. Because I feel like Skyrim, for example, I would have never thought some people who would just only play like a Madden or something would love Skyrim.
He loves Skyrim, actually. He's super into it.
There you go,
He's
yeah.
Like, when's the next time we're going to come out with a new Skyrim type game? Like, I don't know. It'll be a while. You know, there's this game Fallout 4, and I don't know if it really responded to what he was like, but, you know.
Wait, did he play Fallout 4?
Nah.
Oh, okay. Because that might be one of those games would, you know, fit up his alley.
Honestly, I would think so with his guns and stuff, but, you know, you reach a certain age, it's like all you want to do is just shoot things and whatever. Really likes the racing games, Project Cars and Need for Speed. But like I just see what the type of thing he responds to. It's like I remember actually sitting there, and one of the things we do, like one of the programs, is like we'll read Game Informer. You know, he'd do like a reading component. And like, you know, I'll go and like I'll talk about Zelda, and he just has like, you know, like I'll even bring up like some of the games like Pokemon and stuff, and he's like, you know, he just has no interest in those character-based things, you know. He's like, I just really want to shoot things and do it. It's like he just kind of moved, like his perspective of what he's into is just like, nah, I just don't really have an interest in like games. I just have an interest in like these types of games. You know what I mean? like it's a weird thing to articulate because like it's just really that, you know, like kind of like you said, like you were joking a bit with the casual aspect, but like, you know, it's what he's more into. Like, you know, he really likes playing them. Like that's like what we'll work for. We'll work for playing Call of Duty, and he like really wants to be like competitive with it and everything. But you know, at the end of the day, like if I were to go and take my 3DS with me and be like show him like Zelda or something, I don't think he'd have any interest. If I brought my Vita with me and I showed him like Uncharted,
that's
I really
a damn
don't think he'd have any
shame.
interest.
You gotta slap some sense to this kid.
It is what it is, man.
You heard about the to change the subject for a second. You brought up competitive shooters,
Right.
Battlefield. The rumors around World War One.
I heard about it, but I didn't hear like it was from one website. Like I heard a rumor for that and for Call of Duty that they're gonna make Call of Duty Ghosts 2, which sounds crazy.
I didn't hear about that.
Because Call of Duty
yeah.
Ghosts was probably the worst Call of Duty. So while you go back to that well and not just kind of leave that shit back in the past is beyond me. But I guess you do you, Call of Duty, go for it. Why not?
Right.
But yeah, I heard that, and I heard they were doing World War One, and honestly, World War One would kind of be interesting.
It would be interesting because it was more. Correct me if I'm wrong. World War One more was like trench and gas.
Oh, it was
warfare.
like a fucked up war. Like it was like the realist war because you had like mustard gas and all this like
it was real fucked
experimental ways of murdering people.
So it would be interesting to see how they tackle that. You know?
Definitely, you know,
What they design. Because Battlefield is such a large scale with all kinds of weaponry and vehicles. So it'd be interesting to see how to go far as back as World War One with it instead of World War Two again. You know.
Yeah. And World War One's not a series that we get a lot of games in. Like there was that Valiant Hearts game. And,
I have that. I've been meaning to play that game.
It is cool. It's very arduous to play. Like the story is actually very like it's good, but the gameplay is not great. But like the story and all the stuff they have, like it's a really well done game. But just the puzzles and like just the way it is, it's like it's just not that great. Yeah, could have been better, deserved better for the story. But it would be an interesting thing to see. I think to have like an actual like I'm actually in the point where you know, we had a lot of World War II shooters, but you know, all these modern shooters are cool and all, right? But I wouldn't mind seeing another World War II shooter. Do you have any desire preference? To play Call of Duty? I guess preference too, but like, did you play Black Ops 3 or?
I played a bit of it, but it's just Call of Duty. It's just a franchise I've lost touch with.
Right.
But I wouldn't mind them going back to see. My thing with Call of Duty is the perks and how complicated the gameplay has got. I'm not really into the whole unlocking, grinding for hours and hours and have to unlock like a piece of a weapon and or an attachment for your gun or whatnot. You know.
I know what you're saying.
If they went back to World War II, and then like Call of Duty 2, for example, and then they had specific loadouts with the different weapons and whatnot.
Right.
I would love something like that, and I'll totally be into that.
I don't think they'd ever go back
to restricted loadouts, right?
But
people love the customization though.
Yeah.
That's what
which is always
they tailor those. See, that's the thing though about Call of Duty. Even though I've lost touch with it, it still sells gangbusters.
Right.
And it talks to that audience that it gives them what they want, you know.
Right.
And I don't know. I respect them for that.
No, definitely.
So.
There was a part in Black Ops 3 where I really like Black Ops 3 a lot. I know a lot of people are kind of down on like the story and stuff. I thought they did a lot of very interesting things. One of them was that you had this whole concept of, it was very cyberpunk, and you had this concept of like mind jacking someone more or less. And you went into this one person's mind, you know, because everyone has these links and stuff, these neural links set up. And you go into this person's mind as she's dying, and she was like you know, obviously the soldiers, and she just remembered this fight, the Battle of Bastogne from World War II. And you have to like recreate it, but you have like your modern guns, and you're like doing a lot of this stuff that's happening in reverse. And I just had this feeling like this whole sequence is like really fucking cool. It's like probably the coolest thing that happened in this game. Like everything involving with it. They actually like tied in zombies into the actual game itself, because like there was a part where you're in a house shooting these World War II zombies as they're trying to get you. It was honestly, like, I'm not doing it enough justice. It was probably one of the coolest sequences a Call of Duty game has had in a very long time.
Right.
But like as I was playing, I'm like, I actually wouldn't mind playing a World War II game again. Like it feels so fresh just to see that viewpoint in that world. And when you think about the way that they had done those games 2 and 3, and the way that the series has evolved since then, like it would be so cool to see like a game set up in this way with all the story trappings and narrative trappings and everything, but just takes place during this, huge war. I think it would be an interesting thing to see.
So going back to what you said earlier in this podcast with Black Ops 3, you said that they're branching off the multiplayer.
Right.
So what if they do a situation where that becomes the Call of Duty platform for competitive multiplayer? Then they just release the World War II campaign, because you know how we were just talking about their perks and stuff. How could they design that in a World War II setting?
World War II would be so weird because it's such a different setting. Like if you think about Black Ops 3, like you honestly have neural links and you're sending out like there's these things you're sending out things to attack people's minds and stuff. Like it would be such a dissonance to have like, I can send this person, I can incinerate them, and also I have this gun that's like World War II era musket. You know what I mean? Like it would be so weird, it would be so dissonant.
Yeah.
Like that would be a type of situation where it's like I would have to imagine they would have to do a new game. Like I couldn't imagine having like a narrative World War II game that took itself very seriously. And
no, but I mean, I'm saying just on the point of separating the single player and the multiplayer.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. That was like, so if I had like a single player game that was only World War II based, right? And it was like, I was using the AKs and all the guns from that era, but then I was like, all right, let me take this game in multiplayer, and then all of a sudden I had like advanced AKs with like laser sights, and I had like the ability to incinerate you. I'd be like, no, this is too different. Like it's not the same at all.
It wouldn't be the guns or anything from the World War II game. That would just be its own standalone title.
That's what I'm saying though. So like let's say I got Call of Duty World War II, shit is new edition. Like with like Call of Duty World War VI, Call of Duty World War II 2016 edition, right?
But it would be all World War II stuff. It wouldn't be that future stuff you're talking about.
Right, but then only for single player.
Right.
But then once I went into that mode,
it would just be Black Ops 3 multiplayer.
And then I went into it and I said multiplayer, and it just loaded up Black Ops 3. I would be like, no, this is like it's a legitimately different game. Like it wouldn't be.
No, but I don't know if they're marketing it as such, if people expect that it's just you get the Black Ops 3 multiplayer, which is now the platform for Call of Duty. It
would be too different. It's just it's too different. Like
you don't think Call of Duty will ever become a platform?
Like Call of Duty could, but it would have to be like, at the very least, it would have to be Black Ops, or it would have to be like whatever new name they come up with World War II, like Greatest Generation or something. Like they have to have like, it would be the Greatest Generation platform. Like I don't think they can do a cross between Modern Warfare and Black Ops because they're just so different. Like I mean, one takes place in like 2074, the other one takes place in 1920, like 1943. Like maybe I'm missing such a difference in setting and everything involved that would be so dissonant that like I would legitimately just be playing two different games. You know what I mean?
Like you technically are.
Exactly, which would be the problem. You know what I mean? Like it wouldn't work as a platform for that degree, but like I can see them doing a Black Ops 3 and a Black Ops 4. So like Black Ops would then just be the platform, and then they made the new Black Ops game, and then that was just something that was like, okay, so we have the multiplayer that would be the base multiplayer.
The Black Ops team.
But then Black Ops 4 had its own story mode. Like I could see that happening, but I think that like. The stories have branched off in all these separate ways. That like you have something like, you have Ghost, you have Modern Warfare, you have Black Ops, you have Advanced.
And they're all completely different.
They're all totally different. They're not in the same universe and all this stuff. Like it wouldn't fit.
I'm interested to know though which Call of Duty multiplayer that competitive players like most too.
I would be too. I feel like
because then really only that game would be the one that they would, because the only one that they would go with a platform is probably the most well received one, right?
Right. I want to say that it's Advanced Warfare.
Nah, I think you sure?
Yeah, because I remember when Black Ops 3 came out.
I thought people hated all that double jumping.
No,
and
people
stuff.
love that shit. Honestly.
I think there's a war going on as we talk about this, and we're talking about this more. There's a war going on within the Call of Duty community actually. Now that we're opening up on this discussion,
it definitely is. I know people that are like I want to play Modern Warfare 3.
Right.
I also know people that are like, no, let's play Advanced Warfighter, and then I also Advanced Warfare. And I know like when
got that raw in you.
Yeah,
Ghost Recon.
I love Ghost Recon.
That was cool. Yeah,
down for the new one, Cocaine Mountain.
Yeah.
But like when I remember when Black Ops 3 came out, people were like, no, it's just like if you're gonna play a game, you don't play multiplayer, just get Advanced Warfare. And that was one that people like all online were saying, it's like, no, just stick with Advanced Warfare. There's no point in getting 3. Which is also the thing where it's like the game still sells very well, but I have to imagine that like ever since Ghosts, I think they're kind of seen like a dip. You know, I don't think it's been as popular as it was. Like
yeah, but that's just relative to Call of Duty numbers.
And to an extent, you know.
Nah, it's not to an extent. That's still Call of Duty still obliterates everything.
Yeah, no, it's still huge, but like you know, there's a difference between like the hugeness it had for Modern Warfare 2 and the Modern Warfare, like you know.
I don't know. We would have to look that up.
Yeah, I mean, we could. I don't know with the numbers off the top of my head or anything like that, but I just know that like there's been a fairly steady
there's
decline.
The decline, right? Yeah. Didn't Black Ops 3 sell more than Advanced Warfare though?
I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I mean, Black Ops, the thing with the Call of Duty games is, like, you know, Advanced Warfare, like, it wasn't that it was a bad game or anything like that, but it was a totally new entry in the series.
And it was coming off of Ghost, right?
And, like, Ghost was, like, pretty much one of the worst games that they've had in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that that's also the other thing about it, too, is, like, you know, with Call of Duty, you don't really see the effects until, like, the next game. So Call of Duty, like, Ghosts, I think, sold relatively well. It was a system, it came out with new systems, all this other stuff that happened with it. I actually somehow have 2 because I ended up getting it for the computer and then I ended up getting it for the PlayStation 4.
You bought them separately or one came with?
The computer was the one that I was going to get it with first because, and that's actually why I got it and I beat it because I was going to get it for the PS4, but the PS4 wasn't out yet. And I wasn't going to get it on the PS3 or the Xbox because they weren't offering like Battlefield 3 was where I can like play it and I could do a $10 upgrade. So I was like, well, fuck that, I'm not going to buy it. So I ended up getting it when it was cheaper, but that's how I got it for the system. But you don't see sales decline until the next game. So that's why I think you kind of like had the fatigue that people kind of had from Ghosts, and then it settled in for Advanced Warfare. People were kind of also like, they don't have a connection to it, it's a new setting, and all this other stuff. And then if you look at like a lot of the critical reactions, even Black Ops 3, it's overall fairly negative. Like I don't think a lot of people have particularly good things to say about it, even though I think it kind of deserves like, you know, from my perspective, it was probably like one of the games that really kind of rejuvenated my interest in the Call of Duty series, which I was feeling a little stagnant in for a while. But it does a lot of really interesting things story-wise, and like just the fact that it like separates from, you know,
has 4-player co-op,
right? And it carves its own niche in a lot of ways. Like I mean, like you know, I always have an affinity towards cyberpunk-esque things in general, but like just the way that like you go even from Black Ops. Black Ops was always kind of their Cold War game. And like when you had the first one, it was like took place basically in the Cold War era. Then you had one that like jumped into the future, and they did some narrative things that were interesting that they didn't really like follow through with, but you know, it was what it was. And then this one just kind of like goes full on hog. It's like, oh, let's just make like cyber warfare the game. And I was like, that's really interesting, you know. But you have something to bank on when you call a game Black Ops 3 because you have people that were fans of Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, so they'll probably pick up the game, they'll be more likely to, whereas like someone sees Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, it's like, oh, I don't have any real
affinity
bond or connection to this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you haven't really played Black Ops 3, you said, right?
Nah, because I want to play a co-op for my first time. Is it 2 different campaigns actually, or is the same campaign 1 or 4 players?
It's the same campaign.
It's the same exact one?
Yeah, same exact. No diff at all.
Because I'm game sharing with Jay, but I haven't played it. So he bought it,
True.
He played it, but haven't touched it really.
I liked it. You know, I thought it was a good game. You know, I'm interested in seeing what happens. Like, you know, like, you know, to kind of bring it back to the original point with Ghost 2. Ghost 2 had a whole bunch of problems. Ghosts had a whole bunch of problems, but I'm not.
Where did you hear that anyway?
Ghost 2 online. Couple places. There was a game magazine from the UK. It was like an actual, like official, like a legitimate magazine that wouldn't really just kind of publish things.
What if they're bringing the dog back?
Hey man,
they
made a big deal with that dog at E3. Remember? Modeled this
fish
dog.
AI.
Hell yeah, man. The fish move out of your way.
Sharks now.
They don't. Not at all. But you know, like, just because Ghost 1 sucks doesn't mean that Ghost 2 has to suck.
No, right.
You know, they
right,
could do some interesting stuff with it. It just seems a weird thing to kind of like back that horse. You know, I would feel like they would probably do Advanced Warfare before they go back to Call of Duty Ghosts. But they also have a very strange system where it's like the 3 different production teams are all making their own games, and they're not really necessarily communicating with each other. That's why you get like these weird situations where like Modern Warfare 3 has like one particular type of game type, and then you go and you get like Black Ops and it doesn't have that. Yeah, it's like you guys have communicated to one another and like said this thing, and we're gonna do this, this, and this, and kind of included that. But seems like someone online that answers that was no, we can't. Talking to each other is hard.
So, I guess what else? What other future titles are you looking forward to?
Like in general, or like actually
just in general,
like near
coming
releases?
up this year. This year, coming out this year. Because did Uncharted get delayed? Oh, it got delayed.
It did
twice.
actually,
Yeah,
which was something I actually kind of wanted to bring up a little bit. I remember we were talking a little bit about it yesterday. So it only got like a 2-week delay.
Yeah.
But I wish I had actually pulled it up. I should have done that while we were talking. But like the reason that they give for delay was that I'm gonna paraphrase just from my memory. It was more or less that they couldn't produce enough copies of the game. So they were like
too high in demand.
Yeah, it's like
in 2016.
We want to make sure that we're meeting the demand of all the people. So we wanted to make sure that we had enough copies for everyone. So we're delaying it by 2 weeks. And I don't have a problem with you delaying a game. I actually appreciate when you delay a game because like go for it. I'd rather have a fully fledged and like competent, bug-free, whatever, like the best possible.
Usually
game.
It's for a game's benefit if it gets delayed.
It's never really for like an issue otherwise, as much as I'd love to play the game now, like I'd rather get an actual good game, but don't lie to me and tell me that it's because this game is so popular that you can't produce enough copies. It's 2016, all the games like are digital now, like it's really not an issue. There are so many copies of the game that you could print. It's not a matter of it being a limited edition issue because there is a limited edition version of the game. So it's not like they just delayed the limited edition version. They're just delaying the game. So it's not like they ran out of enough copies of the limited edition. It's just we don't have enough of the game.
Nobody's believing that, right?
No, not at all. Like, I can't imagine anyone taking that at face value. And it's just at a point where it's like, that's super insulting. Like, you just don't think of me as that unintelligent that you're going to say, well, our game is so popular, we need to make sure that we're meeting demand, so we're delaying it by 2 weeks. It's like, no, just say like, we caught a game-breaking bug at the end, or there's a marketing decision behind it, or like whatever reason it is you have to delay it, just be upfront and be honest. Like it hurts. It's not a good look to go and say like, oh, well, we're going to put it on delay for 2 weeks because of it's so popular, guys. It's like, no, it's not an issue at all. And like even when you think about like games that had that issue, like that hasn't been something that's been an issue for like 20 years, and that would be such a good thing because like you would want to be able to say there's this whole thing right with sold out. Well, like you always hold like back when like the Wii was like out and everything. It's like they're not producing enough to like manufacture demand. But it was
go out and get my copy right now.
Right. But the issue with manufacturing demand is that you want there to be the perception of manufacturing demand,
right,
but you want there to actually be a product because otherwise you're losing sales. Because if people go to the store and they can't buy a game, then or a system or whatever, they're gonna end up spending the money on something else more likely, or they're not gonna they're gonna lose interest or something along those lines. You don't want them to actually like run into a situation where there's such like anticipation. It's like, oh, I really need Uncharted 4, and then they go to a store and they actually don't have it. But you want there to be that perception of that being the case because then more people get hyped. It's like, oh, it's the next big thing. I have to go get it, and that's how you manufacture demand. You're manufacturing demand, but you actually still have the supply there. So you're not like actually constraining supply. Your warehouse is going. You're trying to make as many as possible, get as many out there, and sell as many units as possible. But you want to give the perception of it being something that's like so high in demand.
Yeah.
But, I don't feel like that's something you need to do for a game. And, like, it just seems so weird for them to come out with it. Like, it's not an issue. Just put it out there and be like, it's is what it is and it's sold. Like, you put the digital one out there. It's not like people can't get it. And, like, when all is said and done, like, I can't imagine in 2016 they have such a low production pipeline for this game that they need to delay it 2 weeks to print out a couple more copies. Like, how many more can they make within 2 weeks? It's not like the game just went gold or anything like that. The game's been finished, they're saying. Like, it's like all aspects and angles that you look at this thing make zero sense to me. And it's like, I just can't believe that they thought they can say that and get away with it. You know, it's just so crazy.
Who put out the press release on it?
I'd seen it on GameSpot. I think it just came from Naughty Dog PR. I mean, I can look it up. We can do some fact checking, but
Facts aren't important.
Facts don't matter.
Yeah, it don't matter. Who cares?
I'm with you on that.
So, anything else? Anything in the near future coming up?
I mean, it's not like I'm not looking forward to Uncharted, but I'll also say that, like, kind of when it comes to Uncharted, I've lost a little bit of interest as the game's kind of going on. Like,
No, I mean any other games.
Oh, a lot.
Because I think they're supposed to be dropping Crackdown 3 news soon.
Right. I would have actually expected to hear about that at the spring thing, so I was a little bit surprised to not hear about it.
Yeah, I'm so hyped for that game.
Mm-hmm.
I loved Crackdown 1. I put so many hours into that game, collecting all the orbs.
Yep.
It's just so satisfying hearing the ding, you know?
It is. 2 was very disappointing to me.
Very disappointing. But they added some cool things to it, like the helicopter and the glide suit were pretty cool.
Glide suit was cool.
Yeah, although it's questionable if that should be in the third one, because then you can, like, it kind of breaks the design of, like, climbing buildings. It breaks that fun a little bit.
Somewhat. Helicopter, I think, breaks it more than
definitely, absolutely.
climbing
Yeah.
suit.
So, but then you remove the skies element of shooting shit down.
Right.
And the destructible world would be interesting with it. I don't know. Who knows what they're gonna add.
Crackdown was always interesting to me because, like, I never wanted to upgrade the car. Like, I actually, like, barely ever did it. I didn't care about the car.
It's so good.
I mean, I did
the
it.
fully upgraded vehicles.
Yeah, you got
so
so armored
awesome.
and everything. Like, I mean, I did it eventually, but it was not my priority at all.
The supercar, you can hold B for the superpower of the car, and for B, you can get low to the ground, and then you can ram into any car and it'll just go flying.
Right.
The truck had a super boost, and anything you rammed into just exploded.
Yeah.
And then the SUV had the jump, and you can climb up walls with it or ride up walls. Crackdown is such an interesting game. I can't wait to see what they do with the multiplayer.
Definitely.
Especially after something like GTA has been around, after the success industry seen from having a game like that. A lot of people can just jump into a world and they can keep adding stuff onto it, and their updates add something meaningful to the game. Players are always coming back for more, you know. So a Crackdown in 2016 is going to be very interesting to see.
I hope so. I was in the same boat with you, you know, with Crackdown.
I'm so excited.
Quantum Break, I think, actually is interesting still. Like, I haven't lost interest in it. They had, like, a whole bunch of information on it.
Yeah, I want to stay kind of dark on it.
Yeah, I've kind of have been doing the same. Like, I really don't know too much more than I knew about it from last year, to be honest, from E3, when they kind of, like, started talking more about it.
They changed a bunch of the show. Now it's just going to be in-game.
Right, which I think is weird and interesting at the same time, because it's still going to be show length. So I think, like, I heard that's going to be 22-minute long cutscenes or whatever between. Like, it just seems like a really weird thing. Like, I don't know. It also seems like there's going to legitimately be, like, options and, like, choices you make, and the choices are going to give you, like, different episodes or something. Like, it's all, like, I'm very interested in seeing where it goes, just because the pedigree of the team working on it. And, like, you know, I'm a fan of Max Payne and Alan Wake. Like, I like those games. So if they did some
Alan Wake
things.
Returns. You heard about that?
No.
Oh, well, boom.
Boom.
Alan Wake is returning.
Oh, word?
And apparently there's a trailer in it in
really?
Quantum Break. Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
So somehow it's.
Is it going to be like the
We don't know too much yet, obviously.
true. Like, because what was the even in Alan Wake they had like Twilight Zone type thing. What was
Imagine if Quantum Break is a story that's within Alan Wake.
That's what I'm trying to think of. You know,
Mind-blowing.
it might be, because I actually can't remember, but I remember, like, they had the quantum suicide and stuff, and they did all of that interesting
And
stuff.
if they put the two games together,
that would be really cool. That would be one way to bridge the universes.
That
would be an interesting thing to see.
Speaking of bridge universes, though, Star Fox and Metroid. Let's get that crossover title.
Wasn't that like a
F-Zero.
really, really weird rumor like
F-Zero.
3 years ago or something like that? I remember that, actually.
I would love for that to happen.
I think I remember hearing that rumor. It's like,
How crazy would that be if Captain Falcon and Samus meet, and then somehow they meet up with Star Fox, his fleet, you know, with the Great Fox. Man, a Nintendo universe. What?
I would like a Nintendo Universe game.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to
use
drop
the
a
Amiibo?
controversial opinion that I think you were just getting at, making an Amiibo game.
Oh, yeah.
I think that would probably piss a lot of people off.
Speaking of, hold on, let's go to that word for a second. Amiibo. A pet peeve is not really a pet peeve because I don't really care, but it's funny how so many people say Amiibos still. I think I'm gonna make a video just on that. Just a 5-second clip.
Also only a lowercase a.
It's amiibo, a lowercase a.
Yep. Only a lowercase a, never capital.
That is a good point. I think damn. I'll be honest. I think I've typed it with a capital A before.
Yes, you fucked up, man.
I fucked up.
I don't know what you're talking about now. I don't know what a capital A amiibo is. I don't know what that is. That's some shit you've made up. I don't know what that is. But I know what a lowercase amiibo is. I know what that is.
That'll be an interesting game, though.
I mean, honestly, like, amiibos in a really weird place because I really like them.
Did
I think
you just
they're
say
cool.
amiibos? You just said amiibos. What the hell?
Going for the conversation,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But amiibo are in a really weird place because, like, I'll use Twilight Princess as an example, where when they announced that they're gonna have the Wolf Link amiibo that comes with the game, and there was all these people that were like up in arms about like, oh, you're locking content behind like DLC and all this other shit that happens. And then it's like, okay, but all it is like this one thing, and you get like a rupee, like, a giant rupee bag, and it's not like a real dungeon. And then people are like, the same people would just immediately be like, well, then fucking what's the point of the amiibo? It's like, well, you don't want them to give a value to the amiibo, but like as soon as they do, you get pissed off. It's like there's no way to win. You know what I mean? It's like there's people who are just kind of like,
you mean that they want them to give value to
right? It's like they're like, well, amiibos are useless. They don't do anything. It's like, well, because every time they go to add it, you say like they are blocking content behind a $15 physical DLC. It's like that's not really the case, and it's really not what the game is like at all. But like it's just like there's no winning when it comes to amiibo. It just seems like people are just kind of like against the whole concept of Toys to Life. But like I feel like you there's such a popular thing, and they've sold so many. You need to really give them a certain value. Like it's cool to have like Mario Maker. I could just scan an amiibo, and then like I'll get that costume, and it's like, all right, so it saves me some time. That's cool. In Fire Emblem Fates, like I can go and I can scan Marth or whatever, and I can get some stuff from it, and eventually I can recruit him to my team. But it's not anything that's integral to the game. You can still totally play the game without Marth. You can play the game without the spinner and Hyrule Warriors. Like, I mean, it doesn't really matter one way or another. At a certain point, you need to be like, we have these products. We need to make them have value. You need to kind of like just go ahead and say, no, like we have this toy industry. Let's go for it. Just be like, this is a game that requires amiibo. Like, people, there's millions of amiibos that have been sold. It's like if you buy the physical copy of the game, you're going to get some amiibo. It's like you won't have amiibo, but like you just need to go out there and just be like, this is a game that needs it. Just done with it.
I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Like, I think that once they pull the Band-Aid on that, people kind of like get their complaints out there right away. I think they'll complain less because it's like, well, can't really say they're useless. You need them for this one game. And then like, just start adding value that way.
And just keep adding to that game. Don't make like an Amiibo 2 or something.
I mean, because it ends up being a situation with like, for all intents and purposes, like, I can buy the Link Amiibo and I can put him in the Hyrule Warriors and I can scan it and I can get the spinner. I can put him into the Zelda, Twilight Princess, and I think it gets me arrows. They serve multi-purposes, so like they work across games. It's not like they only are things that only work once and you're done with them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can scan them and you can use them multiple times. Like, I can use Link and I can use them in Smash. I can use them in, Mario Kart, and I can unlock some stuff. Like, I mean, there's a lot of different purposes and uses for them. Like, Ganondorf, I can put him in Twilight Princess and I get, like, an extra hard mode. Because I end up losing, I think, double hearts every time I get hit.
Although I'm sure I would like just the hard mode to be in the game in general.
They have hero mode. So they added hero mode, but then you can also make it harder on yourself because then you can also scan in Ganondorf, and then you get double on top of that. So you get, if you want to just play the game, double hearts, then you can put in Ganondorf, but you can also play hero mode with the double hearts. So you just get, like, super fucked up, which is a game that Twilight Princess, because it's been a while since I played it, but I enjoyed it enough, but it was a very easy game. Like, it wasn't like you weren't really getting fucked up that much, Yeah. But it's something where you have these multi uses, and it's like what more do you really want them to do? Like, you get a $15 thing and you can use it across a couple things. So I think at a certain point you just gotta bite the bullet and just say, this is a game that's Nintendo universe. They can all interact with one another, but in order to do it, you have to use the amiibos. Yeah, use them.
You think they'll make that jump?
For the amiibo?
Yeah, you think they'll make a game for NX launch? amiibo game.
That'd be cool. Honestly, I'd be down with that.
Yeah.
I think it would be a good thing. For whatever system it needs to be for, honestly, Wii U, Nintendo, 3DS,
it
NX.
needs to be for NX.
I mean, it would be a good thing to have. Like, it is what it is. I just feel like you just need to do something with the amiibo just to get them all out there and just, like, quell the quiet. Like, just be like, no one's really saying it anymore. It's like, this is a game that requires them, whatever. And, like, don't be afraid to, like, put meaningful things behind them in games. Like, at a certain point, it's something that's, like, commendable because it's like you don't want a lot of content behind these things that people don't get it. It's like you pay $60, you should get the full experience no matter what. And, like, I get what they're saying and, like, what it is, but then you get these people, it's just so insufferable to hear them complain about, like, how useless the amiibos are. It's like, they're not. They serve a purpose. It's just, like, they're not serving the purpose necessarily that, like, works for every game you have, but it's not like they're totally useless. They definitely function. So, like,
Well, plus, maybe it's just those people just have to view it differently, because maybe view it as a product first with bonus features.
Exactly. They're nicely manufactured figures that you don't get for a lot of series. Like, there's no Lucas figure you're going to get anywhere else. Like, you're going to get the amiibo, that's it. Like, you're not going to get an official branded Lucas thing anywhere else, especially not in the U.S.,
That'd be cool if they came out with a future Mario Party. Mm-hmm. And it was just the Mario Party platform from the NX, and then over time they built more character models that you can scan in. Like, you could have a Mewtwo.
That would actually be really cool. Like, do you play?
Because none of the characters are but none of the characters are really different. They're just costume swaps. So something like that can make sense for.
So Mario Party 10 was, like, interesting with the amiibo actually because what they did with it was, I feel like they just didn't do enough with it. Otherwise, that would have been, like, pretty much what you wanted. Where you would scan in an amiibo, and you played, like, an amiibo mode. Mm-hmm. And it was the one that was more like a traditional Mario Party experience, where you had, like, an actual, like, board or whatever. Because the one that you had, Did you play Mario Party 9? So, like, at a certain point, Hudson really stopped working. Or I think Hudson took over the game, and it really wasn't Nintendo. Like, I'm not too sure what the handoff was necessarily, actually, to be honest. But with 9, they kind of changed the way the game works, where you're collecting, like, these mini stars, and you're all together in, like, one cart.
The cart? I thought that was the most recent one.
9 and 10, they both do it.
Oh, they both do it?
So it was something they added in 9, where starting with this game, you all roll together. You're not, like, doing something separate. Mm-hmm. So in 10, they have, obviously, the new mode that's, like, in the car, and you're doing whatever you're doing. They also have, like, a Bowser mode, which was really cool. But with the amiibo, you basically got classic Mario mode. And you all had a different thing. You had a board. You all moved individually, and you did what you did, and you played some games or whatever. But the problem with it was it would scan each one, and you can actually do some pretty cool stuff. Like, let's say we're playing a 4-player game. We'd each scan. So, like, let's say you had Mario, I had Donkey Kong, someone else had Yoshi, and someone else had, like, Peach. Like, they all had their own worlds. And, like, by scanning in each one of these, each quarter of the world would become, like, this is Yoshi's version of his board, and then, like, you would put each board from there, and you could mix and match it, and it was really cool. But what was kind of bogging that down was you had each time you wanted to roll the dice, you had to scan the amiibo, so you couldn't just press a button. So you actually had to, like, pass around the gamepad, and you had to, like, pop it onto the NFC reader and, like, lift them up in order to move your dice. Mm-hmm. The boards weren't particularly big. I feel like if they kind of fleshed that out, it'd be more or less what you were kind of looking for. But it was an interesting idea, I think, honestly, to see.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential with the amiibo.
Definitely,
that's left to be grabbed.
And there's they've done cards at this point. They have the Animal Crossing cards that have come out in America. There are the Fire Emblem cards I think that they were making, or I think that's actually just a card game that came out in Japan. But they're like, we don't. We're holds. We have the opportunity and options to do other things. It's not like we only have to do figurines. I think figures are obviously more marketable. I think more people are interested in buying the figures than they are opposed to the cards. Like, just from what I can tell, I don't think people have been too interested or as interested in the Animal Crossing, like, cards as they have, like, the Smash or the Animal Crossing or the all the other series of actual figures, because you actually get a physical thing and it's nice, and the cards are nice quality, but they're cards, So it's not something people are, like, beating it out the door for to get. But, like, I like that they're taking other avenues like that, because that's something that's portable. When you think about, like, a Pokemon game, it's like you can't have, like, over 700 figures, but you could probably do a pack, you could do a set of 700 cards. It'd be a lot easier and more manageable, or the ones that matter, and eventually build up to 700.
I would love for them to have like a ground zero for Pokemon again, to just start over, have. I'm just a fan of the first 251 Pokemon.
Right.
So I'd say they start over and just go straight with those.
Did you play
and maybe just like the first 200 then or something?
Did you play Black and White?
No.
Because they basically did that idea with Black and White. So they limited you, because when you're in this Unova region, it was basically like Pokemon America, and they limited you to, at first, before you can get like the other Pokemon, it was like there's 150 in this region, whatever. It's like you're kind of limited to these new Pokemon first before you get any of the older ones. It was an interesting thing, like I appreciate them doing it, but at this point, I think but
the game itself still had, what are they up to, like over 600 now or something?
Yeah, there's around 700. But like when the game started, like you played the whole main game and you were limited to like this region's 150, and then it opened up, and it was like an interesting experiment. But like I think at the end of the day, people are so. It's a weird thing to have a game. It's like, oh, where's Pikachu? You know what I mean? Like it's just like they're iconic.
I think people are attached to some of the. Right. Yeah, no, I hear that.
So it ends up being like a really difficult thing to pull off. Like I'm interested in seeing, because they announced
it's a lot of band-aids you got to take off.
It is, it is.
Or unless they just keep what they have now, and focus it for for the NX or something, and then just work on like maybe redesigning some characters or like making some changes to that.
Well, that was the thing with X and Y, and like Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire and stuff, was like now it's 3D, so it's not just sprites, but it's the actual 3D creatures and everything. And that was like, that kind of revitalized the world a bit. And then you also had the Mega Evolutions. So like you had these Pokemon where it's like you had fan favorites. It was like Charizard, and no one's ever had like a fourth evolution. So, they did was they kind of like reinvented it, where it's like, so we're not going to limit you anymore or whatever. We're not going to do something like that. But like, everyone remembers Charizard, everyone remembers Bulbas, like, Venusaur, and, Blastoise and stuff. So it's like, well, what if we just created a new evolution for them? So you had this Mega Stone and you would evolve, and like all
How
of a sudden.
How do the Pokemon fans in general feel of Mega Evolutions?
I think they like it a lot. It seems like very positive.
Yeah, it's a cool concept. I've always liked it personally.
Yeah.
When was the last game? What was the last game that added Pokemon then?
X and Y.
X and Y?
Yeah. Alpha and Omega were just remakes of in 3D, but Ruby and Sapphire, so it was the third generation. So Sun and Moon are going to be a whole new game. So that's going to be the 7th generation, the actual new 7th generation.
And they're going to be adding Pokemon for sure, right?
Definitely. And it looks like...
How many is there like a consistent number that they usually add?
No, I mean, it's usually at least 100. I think like Generation 6 only added 100 or so. Like I don't think it was too much.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while, and I probably would have been a little bit more able to tell you like the specific number there were of Pokemon, but I really can't anymore. I want to say it's like 600. It's like right under 700 if it hasn't like gone over at this point. But what's interesting about like some of the speculation about Sun and Moon is there are these there's like a manga and stuff, and I don't know if they're doing it in the anime at all too, but they have these if you look at like the logo for Sun and Moon, there's like a little crystal you can see. And if you look at the logo for X and Y, you can see like the Mega Evolution Stone that's in the logo. And there's this crystal you can see. It looks like the one they have from the manga, where it's like a person like merges with the Pokemon or something. Like I don't know too much about what's going on with it, but that would be a really interesting concept to see. It's like it's less of a, and this is also why I think like they only added 100 in the last game, was it's like, well, we don't want to do more because the Mega Evolutions are technically new Pokemon. So you had like whatever number of Mega Evolutions you had, and then...
No, it was a clever way to move the series forward.
Right.
Without flooding it.
Right, because you didn't add new Pokemon in Ruby and Sapphire, but you added new Mega Evolutions. Mm-hmm. So technically you had new Pokemon, but you had it was just more these Pokemon have new evolutions. So like you could do the same thing in this game where it's like, all right, so we only came up with 100 new Pokemon, but now you have Mega Evolutions, but you also have the merges. So you have like these versions of like, a different one with you and this Pokemon. This one's like, Heart Merge or whatever it would be. And like you get different versions through that. And in that way, you're kind of quote unquote adding more, but you're not oversaturating it, It's an interesting concept, I think. Like, I'm very interested in seeing what they do with Sun and Moon, to be honest. Like, it's, could go a lot of ways. I'm really interested in seeing what they do with it.
Think you think humans will fuse with Pokemon to form new creatures?
I don't know. Like, it's weird because
oh, you think give them like different abilities?
I mean, I don't read it, so I really don't know what they're doing with it. Like, I saw some pictures and it looked like this trainer just merged, and it was like, it was just like, it was a
like
situation.
If you merge with a Pikachu, it would be like Steveachu.
Something fucked up like that.
That'd be fucking crazy.
So
what the hell is going on in the Pokemon universe?
Pokemon gets weird, man. Pokemon universe is just
Pokemon is Full Metal Alchemist now. They're just gonna start messing with shit.
Oh no, Nina.
Chimeras, Nina.
No.
Yeah.
Oh no.
She's a Pokemon.
That's fucked up.
She's ground zero for Pokemon. Blew your mind with that one, huh?
Oh shit. But you know how they came up with Pokemon Picross?
Right.
And in there's like an Ash's Pikachu. I mean, not Ash's Pikachu, Ash's Greninja.
Uh-huh.
And like he has like stylings, like his hair, and I think it's something they've done in the anime for a while, where it wasn't so much that Ash one-on-one merged with the Pikachu, but I think they had such a close affiliation that he started taking on characteristics of Ash. I think is what it was, or something like that. So like his hair, like he has different color, where like he has like kind of like his head has like the coloration of the hat that he wears and stuff. So like I feel like that might be the way they go about doing it. Maybe is instead of it being like this weird like we fused and this is fucked up like type of thing, it'll just be like you're so close with your Pokemon that he's evolved into your Greninja or something like that. And
yeah, I can see that.
Something along those lines. It's tough to say. I don't know. It could go either way. But it's an interesting thing. I'm really interested in seeing what they do with Sun and Moon. And there was a quick announcement, too, man. They came out with it. They're like, yo, coming out with a new game end of the year. Boom.
It's a ways off.
I mean, it's fall. They have a couple.
Oh, they said fall?
Yeah. 2016. Coming out at the end of this year.
Word.
For the 3DS.
Yeah, still
You'll have Pokemon Go coming out this month, which I'm interested in hearing more about, seeing what the hell that really is.
Summer, you said?
This month.
Oh, this month.
Yeah, March.
Damn.
You have Pokken this month. They did the re-releases on the Virtual Console of Red, Blue, and Yellow last week. It seems like they're gonna do Pokemon game like this. It's gonna be they're celebrating the 20th anniversary in like a very cool way. Like they're kind of going all out. A whole bunch of games. There was that Detective Pikachu game that came out in Japan a couple weeks ago, and I'm sure we'll hear about coming out here soon enough.
Yeah.
I like seeing anniversaries celebrated in that way. It's like, celebrate your history and stuff, It's unfortunate sometimes that, like, when some of these big things go by, like Mega Man, and what you got was the Legacy Collection. It's like, that was the best you could do for Mega Man. Like, you could have done better, It's always disappointing when, like, these big milestones
Mega Man always getting the shaft.
It's true. Even the Anniversary Collection's all buggy and shit. It's a bad version of the game. You could do better.
Nah, I was gonna say, so where do you want to go from here?
That's what I was gonna say, and I was gonna ask if there was any other stuff that you were looking forward to at the end of the year. Otherwise, I think we went through a lot of topics. It might not be worst idea to kind of.
I gotta use that bathroom,
Oh,
word. I'm hungry.
Let them know.
They're gonna know.
Do in the
they
bathroom?
hear it.
Let them know.
I'm gonna let it out.
You're gonna open the door.
Let it all
so you get in the bathroom. What's the first thing you do?
Let it. As soon as I get in the bathroom, I let it out.
Oh shit! Just door closes.
As I'm walking
all
to
over
the
place.
toilet,
Just make it happen.
Let it loose.
That's true.
Fast and loose, baby.
Hey man, that's if there's one thing I know about you, it's fast and loose.
Damn.
Yeah, it's true. That's what I've heard.
But no, I mean, other than that, we touched upon a lot of things.
Yeah,
some
I think
interesting discussions.
Captured a lot of good things. We went over a lot of things. We did a good review of everything that happens. We're gonna do this, a lot more frequently too from this point on. I think so. We'll kind of do like
we're gonna be consistent. Keep it on the schedule, whether it's every week,
definitely,
or bi-weekly will be the most.
Mm-hmm.
But we're gonna be on top of it. So
definitely, and we didn't actually do it too much this time. Where like we had a little bit of discussion about like what you were playing with Zelda and stuff, but that'll be a very frequent. Like, if there's any, we're coming up with segments. We have some in mind. We didn't go through all of them today, but like, if you have any segments you want to see or whatever, we actually do have email. We have the email address we can give out too, or maybe if you want to send some comments or questions.
You can reach us at the iXi club at gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
our YouTube, you're already on it.
Definitely.
Well, it's just /iXi Club.
True. It
And,
might be on iTunes because you'll see it on there too.
Right.
So
Yeah.
get a couple things through that.
You can reach us on Twitter at iXi Club. Me personally at Unknown iXi.
Right, and you can meet me over at Twitter at ASADASA. That's at Asadasa.
And I mean, other than that, good day and good game, I guess.
Good game. I mean, come back, get in contact with us. Let's know what's up. We're always interested in hearing from our fan.
Drop a comment. Come to our Twitter.
Like,
a hot follow,
comment, subscribe, follow,
like, comment, subscribe,
donate.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But in all honesty, it's just an exciting thing to do. We're kind of keeping up with it.
It's
and
fun.
As much as we can get fan community involvement as possible is always a good thing to have.
We got to make it to double digits of these podcasts.
It's happening, man. I mean, honestly,
we're on episode. We just made episode 3 of Day After Dead.
Right, and we've been very consistent with that, which is good. We're gonna be very consistent, I think, with this as well. We're gonna get in there, and then I think we're gonna open up, keep your eyes open on the iXi Club YouTube and Twitter and everything, because we'll probably be announcing other podcasts and streams. And everything.
We got some ideas for other shows coming up. There's a lot of interesting things we're gonna start making.
And that will be the other thing too with the emails. You can hit us up and you can send us an email. And if you have an idea for a podcast or if you want to be a guest on the podcast, we're always willing to have people on. And if you have something that you are interested in, it might be something that we would be very interested in discussing.
Yeah, if you have something you want to plug or even drop a comment below showing us a video you made that you want us to check out, we'll check it out.
Definitely, we can have a discussion based on it or something like that.
Right. Anything you want to hear us talk about too.
Definitely. It's always a good thing to have.
Right.
So with that in mind, again, I'm Asadasa.
I'm FUNKNOWN.
All right, and that's going to be us.
See you guys later.